We're cooking again with Lee tomorrow morning just after 9 o'clock, but it is time for a news update. Let's say hello, Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. The need for a minor injuries clinic in the Northwest is one of the issues set to be discussed at an upcoming public meeting. The closest facility is currently located in Monaghan. The Letterkenny Hospital campaign group believes a Donegal-based clinic would alleviate the pressure on the hospital's emergency department and GP services in the county. The group is hosting a meeting on Thursday, February the 16th at 7:30 at Dillon's Hotel in Letterkenny. Mary T. Sweeney, chair of the Letterkenny Hospital campaign group, says the meeting aims to identify the specific needs of people right across Donegal.
Together, hopefully we'll have a cross-representative from across the county to identify what particular needs are met, because there's a possibility that we need to identify specifically for Carndonagh or for Killybegs or for Dunlow that additional services could be put in place in the winter months, whether it's a respiratory clinic or what the people need.
A man remains in a serious condition in hospital following a crash in Ballybuffet yesterday morning. He was injured in a two-vehicle collision at around 11:30 in the Navanee area. The Navanee-Treenan Road remains closed. Garda forensic collision investigators are to conduct an examination of the scene this morning. Diversions are in place and motorists are advised to avoid the area and seek an alternative route. A vigil has been held in Derry to show solidarity with those affected by an earthquake in Turkey and Syria. Nearly 6,000 buildings have been destroyed and 8,000 people killed. International rescue teams are in place and say they are still hopeful of finding survivors in the rubble. Those from the Turkish, Syrian and Kurdish community gathered in Derry last night to offer their condolences. Zara says her family have survived but are now dealing with horrific conditions.
I'm half Kurdish, so where the earthquake was, it affected our family very badly. They're all okay, but they're having to sleep outside and the weather's really, really bad. It's so cold and it's snowing.
And a Dunfanaghy farmer has become the new chair of the County Donegal Executive of the Irish Farmers Association. Joe Sweeney is also a farm family support officer with the Inishowen Development Partnership. He succeeds Brandon McLaughlin, who held the position for 4 years. Mr. Sweeney told Highland Radio's Chris Ashmore that he looks forward to his new role.
It means a lot to me because farming's probably in my blood. I'm farming all my life, so I'm working with farmers all my life, actually, working on its own, and it's all to do with farming, so it's just another add-on.
Weather now largely dry but cloudy this morning with just a few patches of light rain or drizzle. Highest temperatures of 8 or 9 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in the community. Keeping up to date with your recommended vaccines will make sure you have the best possible protection from serious illness. And everyone aged 18 to 49 can now get a second COVID-19 booster vaccine from a HSC vaccination centre or a participating GP or pharmacy. See what vaccines are recommended for you on hsc.ie or call our team in HSC Live on 1800 700 700 from the HSC.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, The 9 till Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, good morning to you. It's 5 minutes past 9 on this Wednesday, the 8th of February, 2023, and we're all aboard for another 9 till Noon Show. Later on, we're going to be talking history. I know you all enjoy that, and there's so much more besides, so stay with us and get involved in the conversation as you always do, keeping us really busy on the phones, having your say, passing on your information, letting us know if there's anything we can help you with. WhatsApps and texts, let me give you that number, 086 60 25000, 086 60 25000, or call us on 07491 25000. A gentle reminder that if you want to, you can watch the show in its entirety and most of our guests on YouTube. That's on your Fire Stick, your smart TV, your phone, tablet, whatever it might be. Just search Highland Radio Ireland. The same on Facebook or Facebook Watch. And you can also watch directly in browser on our website, highlandradio.com. So with Monday being a public holiday, Still all very confusing. We're already at the middle of the week. Okay, let's look at the front of the Inish Times, and they cover this strange story from yesterday. Gardaí have launched an investigation after damage was caused to the green in Mallintown in a joyriding incident that followed the theft of 6 tractors and a forklift truck. The vehicles were stolen from a commercial facility at Lag near the village between 4:30am, 5:30am on Monday, and it really is bizarre because it seems it would require 7 people to be involved. They had to force start 6 tractors and a forklift, right, then head off to wherever they were going onto the green and to make that mess. And this is a shared space in beautiful Mallintown, and it's dug up, and it's ridiculous really that it should happen. We're going to be speaking a bit more about that a little later on. Repairs to the green were taking place on Tuesday morning. Andy McMonigal, chair of the Malin Development Association, said the vandalism, which is the second incident in recent months, has caused anger in the village, as you can imagine, because as well too, you know, we're not to attribute responsibility to any particular people, of course, because we don't know who might be responsible. That Garda investigation is ongoing, but did they come up from Cork to do it? Probably not, you know. So having to pick up the pieces and the people responsible for it, you know, could be from the general area. I don't know, by the way. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but I think it just might make it more painful for those in the area. The Finn Valley Voice this morning, the Riverine Community Park project, a joint project developed by Donegal County Council and Derry City and Strabane District Council to develop a 30-acre dedicated cross-border and cross-community shared space, has been delayed. And you can read more about it in the paper, and we're going to be talking about that too a little later on in the programme. A sobering headline in the Donegal Post: 1 in 3 Donegal homes going without food or heat. More than 1 in 3 households in Donegal have gone without food or heat as a result of the current cost of living crisis, the Donegal Post can reveal, and some have turned to charities, food banks and family members for support. In total, around 7 out of 8 households in the county have experienced the negative effects of the crisis to some degree. Only 1 in 8 said there had been no change to their lifestyle. The stark reality of the impact of the crisis came to light through a poll which the paper conducted on their news website, donegallive.ie. The journalist who conducted the poll said, "We're all aware in a broader sense of how people are struggling at the moment." The aim of the poll was to get a clear picture of how households in Donegal have been affected by this crisis, which is putting many people under relentless financial and emotional stress. So according to their poll, 1 in 3 Donegal homes going without food or heat. On to the Irish Independent now, and the HSE is being taken to court by 44 families whose relatives died after contracting COVID-19 in hospital or nursing home, new figures show. Bereaved families have taken cases through the State Claims Agency, which manages personal injury claims on the behalf of state bodies, including the HSE. A claim means the SCA has received notification of intention to seek compensation where it is alleged the state was negligent. A spokesperson for the SCA said each case will be considered on its own particular set of facts. The SCA, as a matter of respect for plaintiffs and their families, does not comment on individual cases or groups of cases, he said, but I imagine some of those will be perhaps people. And right from the very beginning of it, it was a concern we expressed on this. I shan't speak on behalf of other people. A concern I expressed certainly on this programme of people who were sick in hospital being transferred with COVID, transferred into places of care where vulnerable people were, and it was a problem right from the very, very beginning. And I'm sure, I'm not sure, but I would be expecting that some of those cases might centre around what went on there. Politicians should face fines for disclosure failures, according to a report, which will sit on a desk or shelf doing nothing, I'm sure. This is the Irish Times. Politicians and top officials should face fines for failure to comply with disclosure obligations while also being forced to submit more detailed accounts of their assets and debts, a landmark review has found. The new report on Ireland's statutory framework for ethics in public office, carried out by officials in the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform, recommended that a range of appropriate sanctions be developed with fixed fines for breaches of disclosure obligations. The recommendations for new powers comes after 2 junior ministers, Robert Troy and Damien English, had to resign in the past year following controversy surrounding their disclosures and regulatory and planning obligations, respectively. Minister for Public Expenditure and Reform, Paschal Donoghue, later recused himself from the reform of ethics legislation, which falls to his department, including the publication of this review after failing to properly disclose postering paid for by a businessman friend in 2 general elections. On to the Irish Daily Mail now. We read that families face paying almost €100 extra a month on shopping bills as supermarket inflation soars to a new record high of more than 16%. The shrinkflation, where pack sizes and portions reduce but prices remain the same, means shoppers are returning to the supermarket more often as what they're buying simply doesn't last as long. And have you noticed that? I have noticed that with a few things, that what you're purchasing in the package or in the container, there's not as much stuff in it, which I don't think's very honest, to be honest with you. I mean, maybe we should lift it up and look at the weight and then remember what the weight was before and then be able to compare that weight and then compare it to the price and all that kind of stuff. But in reality, you know, how many of us can actually do that? I know price is going up. At least it's there in your face. But this notion of reducing the weight of something or how much of a product is in a package, I don't like that at all. I don't think it's very fair. Well, in the last 4 weeks, or in the 4 weeks to January the 23rd, the average price per pack rose 14.6%, while the volume of shopping per trip was down 13%, showing the challenges shoppers face, according to the latest data from retail analysts Kantar. And in the 12 weeks to January 23rd, shoppers spent an extra €90 per household on year to year. The inflation rate of 16.3% is the highest since Kantar started tracking grocery sales back in 1948. This at the same time that nearly a third of parents skipped meals or reduced portion sizes in the past year so their children would have enough to eat. A study conducted by Coin Research on behalf of Bernardo's and Aldi also found that the number of parents using food banks and relying on food donations has doubled. Now, I don't understand how inflationary increases means that these businesses see their profits increase. Okay, someone, an accountant might understand that better than us. But if their profits are increasing, but prices are increasing as well, it's us that's paying for it. And it's not that they're sort of treading water or staying still. They're actually making more money. A lot of these companies, they're making extra money. So why, because we're so loyal to them, aren't we? Let's face it. Why have they not absorbed more of the inflationary increases? You know, I mean, at least stay steady, lads. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to make more profit out of us when we have parents not eating so their children can eat. I would hate to be involved in that. I'm not trying to make out that I've got a halo or anything, but if I was in that part of that decision making, I would struggle to sleep at night. I really would, knowing that I was making more money while other people were less well off. I don't know how they can sleep comfortably at night, to be truthful. On to the Irish Daily Mirror, and this is an unfortunate story, but one that needs to be discussed, of course. The family of 2 people killed in the Creasla explosion has requested a documentary on the tragedy not be aired tonight. 10 people were killed in the blast at the Applegreen service station on October 7 last year. These included Anya Flanagan's partner, Robert Garwey, 50, and their 5-year-old daughter, Shona. Ms. Flanagan's brother, Killian Flanagan, told RTE he has contacted TG Cahir and the Gardaí to request it does not air during the inquiry. He said the idea of it airing is now beyond comprehension and asked why it cannot be shown in 6 months' time instead. Now, there's a number of people. I've kind of tried to, I mean, if people want to speak on this, more than happy to let them speak on it, but I just was not really comfortable making sure that we didn't compound any upset that's out there, okay? But we would know through the show, through me, through Caroline, we would know that there's a number of people that contributed to this who maybe expected it to be broadcast at a later date, that didn't expect it to be broadcast so soon. Whilst an investigation is ongoing, families still don't know what happened to their loved ones. I don't believe anyone knowingly took part in this with a view to it going out so quickly. But I can understand, and I get it, that if I had lost a loved one or someone was injured or I was affected by it, it might feel that this is too soon, that at the very least, wait until the inquiry is official. it's too soon. It feels too soon. But as I say, my understanding is that people partook in this on the understanding that it would be broadcast at a later date. Well, TG Carr seem to be ploughing on with plans to broadcast it. I don't know why. I don't think it's in the public interest. I think you have to listen to the people affected by this, especially as it is so recent. But they say the programme does not report anything about the victims other than what's already been reported publicly in the direct aftermath of the tragedy. That being said, yes, that's fine, but the media need to move away from a position whereby they need to ensure that there's no value. I don't think anyone down the country, let's put it like that, would want to watch that knowing that it upset families, right? I don't think anyone as a viewer would want to partake in that, right? So we need to move away from the clickbaity stuff. I'm not saying that's what that is, but, you know, people will choose alternative medias if the media continues to not read the room correctly. Let me put it like that. Right, on to the Irish Daily Star now, and a report. By the way, if you want to speak on that or if you have anything to say on whether or not that should be broadcast, well, I don't think there's any argument for it to be broadcast, to be honest with you, because for me, the families have spoken. I think some of the participants have spoken as well. So I don't think there's a counter argument to it as well. I think it should not be broadcast now because it's their life, it's their story, it's their words. They don't want it broadcast. So I'm not sure there's a counterpoint to say, yeah, broadcast it. But if you have a view on it, 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, or give us a call on 07491 25,000. The Irish Daily Star this morning. A report by the Attorney General into nursing home charges has found that the legal strategy employed by the government was sound, accurate and appropriate. Probably not surprising, is the Attorney General not appointed by government, or at least works for government, or both. The report was compiled by Ross Fanning after a week of controversy over legal strategies used by successive governments to settle cases where people had to pay private nursing home fees. So the AG said they did the right thing. Legally, I'm not sure whether he could look at something ethically, because I think ethics really is a factor there. Finally, in the Sun this morning, using dating apps may make finding love even harder for wannabe romantics, according to psychologists. This might not surprise you. Excessive swiping on possible matches on services like Tinder can cause a partner choice overload, something that serial dater Leonardo DiCaprio was probably familiar with. It may even create a fear of rejection if love hunters spend too long comparing themselves to others. It's not a great way, is it, to do it where you judge someone purely based on their appearance in one single snapshot? I mean, what does that tell you about someone? Maybe it's okay if you're in the hookups sort of situation, but if you're looking for someone to spend your life with or to spend a prolonged period of time with, you've got to get to know them, don't you? And it's not always just on luck. Psychology PhD student Marina Thomas quizzed 464 users aged from 16 to 25 about their app habits. Potential lovebirds pick a partner by swiping right on their picture if they like them and left if they don't. If both go right, it's a match and they can arrange to meet up. But I think really what happens is they just match each other, they feel better about it and never contact each other. Right, okay, if you have a view on that, 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, or call 074 91 25,000.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra Mountaintop Letterkenny, the C-Store National Large Forecourt of the Year for 2022.
Stop Highland Radio are going to Scotland from Monday the 1st of May to Thursday the 4th of May with the very best of music, and we would love for you to join us. Staying at the 4-star Crown Plaza Hotel in Glasgow, we are bringing with us some of the biggest country stars, including myself, David James, Declan Ernie and Robert Mazzell, to name a few. You will enjoy luxury travel to Glasgow, 3 nights dinner, bed and breakfast with music and entertainment each evening. Join us on the Highland Fling to Glasgow this May for only €575 per person. To book, call Highland Radio today on 074 91 25,000. Early booking is advisable. Single supplement applies.
There's no better time to switch to 48. Get all data, calls and texts for $12.99 a month. And there's no contract, so you're not tied down. Plus, we're powered by 3. Switch and save at 48.ie. Monthly membership, fair usage policy of 200 gigabytes, 5,000 calls and texts, and terms and conditions apply. One-time activation fee of $12.99. See 48.ie.
Donegal Denture Clinic, Letterkenny. Denture problems? We can help. At Donegal Denture Clinic, we customise, personalise and tailor your dentures to suit you. Call us for a free consultation on 91 25 25 3. Find us at Ballyrain, Letterkenny, beside Rossin College. Medical cards welcome. For all your denture needs, call Donegal Denture Clinic on 91 25 25 3. Online at donegaldentureclinic.ie.
At Ulster Bank, our team is continuing to close current and deposit accounts, along with some of our branches. At this time, if your notice period and your deadline has passed, your account is now queued for closure. All personal and business account deadlines are fast approaching. You must take urgent action. If you are still relying on your bank account and in need of more support, please contact us immediately. Visit ulsterbank.ie, your local branch, or call 0818 210 260. Call costs may vary and calls from mobiles may not be free. Ulster Bank Ireland DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
From the smallest shrub to the largest tree in an awkward place, Donnelly Tree Services provide a complete range of tree surgery services. Whether you need to remove a dangerous tree or some nuisance branches, Donnelly Tree Services have the experience and expertise to carry out tree surgery to the highest of professional standards. Call 083 005 9939. Donnelly Tree Services, Donegal. No job is too small, no tree is too tall.
All right, local elections take place in 2024 and a seminar is going to take place shortly in Donegal. It aims to change the face of local politics. Dr. Michelle Maher, I always get this every time we speak, Michelle.
Marr. Think Johnny Marr from the Smiths.
That's not going to help at all. I'm not old enough to remember Johnny Marr.
Oh, that put me in my place then.
No, I didn't mean it like that. That's not fair. Dr. Michelle Maher, thank you very much for joining us. See her elected programme manager. Michelle, do you know, the one thing I've noticed is there's an awful lot of women out there speaking on various issues, and often, and I hope this isn't sexist in me saying, so often, you know, they're the most balanced and most coherent arguments. It's translating maybe sort of those people with those views who maybe feel frustrated that nothing is changing, to change them from, you know, regular people like the rest of us into elected reps. We know the passions out there. We know the people's out there. It's just joining the dots, is it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you're looking for women in politics, you're not finding them sitting over in Lifford or in the Dáil, but where you do find them is flat out in their communities. And that's what part of the work that See Her Elected does is, you know, to continually put value or draw attention to the work that women are doing in their communities. And pointing out that makes them excellently placed to be county councillors, because what they're doing through their volunteering work, etc., is that they're filling in gaps in services that exist. So they know exactly what needs to be done because they're at the coalface. So what we in See Her Elected are doing, we want to help women in rural Ireland into those county councils, to see her elected into county councils. And the seminar that's happening, it's on Friday the 24th of February in my hometown of Donegal Town, in the Central Hotel there. And it's organised by 50/50 Northwest, who are a group of women, kind of Sligo, Leitrim, Donegal, who've been working now for some time to draw attention to the low numbers of women in councils in the region. And along with ourselves, we're putting on this seminar, because I think women, you know, due to the work of the likes of yourself, at drawing attention to how few women there are, I think people are beginning to recognise that it's pretty bad that out of the 37 county councillors in Donegal, there's only 4 women, and that there's only ever been 11 in total since the formation of the state. There's only been 11 women. There must be north of 200 men elected to Donegal County Council over the same time.
Can I ask why? Because people might say, and quite understandably, they might say, there's been quite a few women candidates. They weren't simply elected, or not enough women have put themselves forward, or it's up to the people. They've decided on who was put in front of them. But before we get into sort of that kind of stuff, why is it important, from your perspective, that there is more of a balance on a council? How would society benefit better from half of the councillors being women? I'm sure many of the male councillors, they've got mothers and wives and daughters and aunts. And so why is it important that it's actually women that are on a council?
Yeah, none of this is about women being better than men or men being better at women. It's about getting the balance right in the room. I mean, we live in a democracy, and I suppose some of us might struggle to define what democracy is, but we would all instinctively know it's something worth fighting for, as we see happening on our own continent. And one of the things that underpins democracy is that when we elect a body of people to represent us, they should look like us. So the population is 50% male, 50% woman. So our councils and the bodies we elect to represent us should look like that. And within that, a diversity of people. There's people from all kinds of different backgrounds and abilities living here. And what those people would bring into decision making in the county council is their experience of living in Donegal as a man or a woman with a disability, or having moved here from somewhere else and having to learn how to be here, and the experience that you would have from that, and women in the county, and to bring that knowledge. So it's not knowledge that you learn in a book or from a degree. It's the knowledge that you have from living your life in Donegal, and to bring that knowledge into the council decision making could only benefit the quality of the decision making that's been made.
You have a great panel of guests, including former Taoiseach Mary Coughlin, Senator Eileen Flynn. But if you were to drill down into their experience as politicians in terms of the abuse that they might receive, I think particularly more latterly, Eileen Flynn, because during Mary Coughlin's time, I think really during her time as an elected politician, maybe people weren't as active on social media as they might be now. Also in terms of trying to balance a political career and family life. I'm not going to presume as to what they speak of, but I think if they, and I'm sure they will, give a warts and all reality of life for a woman in politics, will it be encouraging or discouraging? Do you know what I mean? I trust the speakers. I trust the speakers to greatly, because they're very, very powerful people. But do you know what I mean? I think if they laid it all there, if I was sitting in the audience, I'd go, right, okay, is this for me? Do you get me?
Yeah. I mean, you can't talk about women in politics, any level of politics, without referencing, recent news reports around the level of abuse that's levied at them and at our male politicians as well. But when it's levied at women, it tends to be sexual in nature, and
it's more toxic, I think.
And all the more frightening for that. The higher profile politicians in our national government, I suppose, because they have the higher profile, attract more of it. That's not to say that it isn't a concern for county councils. And we were actually talking about this in a workshop we were running last night online, and the consensus that we all reached, there was 17 women online last night, was that the people who are doing this are the people who think that women have no place in politics. And if women don't put themselves forward for election, nothing is ever going to change. So there's almost a moral imperative on women to keep going and not let those people who are sitting there behind their keyboards or wherever they are, who think women have no place sitting at the table when decisions are being made. We can't let them stop us, because if we let them stop us, nothing will ever change. And that's what we're trying to draw attention to by having this seminar in Donegal town.
We've gone, although it's not necessarily reflected in the local authority or in many of them, I think the direction has been a positive one in terms of maybe trying to see women better represented in business, in politics and what have you. But I just wonder, and I've seen little things pop up, and it's not just actually it's academics, it's people in big business that they're starting to spin this thing out now, right? And I'm not sure, this is just part of where I think where we might be going, that, the population of the earth is shrinking and we're not having enough babies because, and they're saying this, women have the audacity to have careers. And I'm starting to see this coming out more and more. I've heard it from Elon Musk. I've seen it from a couple of high-level academics, not necessarily from the areas you might expect to see it. And I just feel that there's almost like a pushback. It's subtle at the moment, but I just wonder, I can imagine in a year, 2 or 3 years' time, that this might gather a bit of strength. Does something like that trouble you? Or do you think it's just...
It certainly would trouble me. I'm not familiar with it, and Elon Musk isn't exactly the type of person I would listen to.
But he has incredible influence, you see. Neither do I, but, he's got 127 million pairs of ears. It is just something that's being troped out now more and more. I'm hearing it more and more.
Yeah, well, then it's up to us and people in the media, like yourself, to counter that, to say that, women have something to say and they have a rightful place at the decision-making tables, and their opinion matters and their experience matters, and everyone will benefit if there is a greater diversity of voices and experience and people together when decisions are being made that affect all of us.
Yeah. What do you think will actually make change in? I think there's a couple of things have to happen. I mean, obviously, we need more women to put themselves forward. The reality is because of party politics, we need parties to select more women. But also, we maybe need the electorate to sort of say, well, what kind of a makeup of a council do I want? Maybe not necessarily vote by way of politics or what have you, or because you always did it a certain way. There's a few things would have to align, presumably, Michelle.
Yeah, there is. I mean, the voters are critical to all of this, and perhaps there's a role for See Her Elected in talking to the voters too, for men and women alike, to understand that everyone would benefit from having different perspectives in the council, not just the same type of people talking to themselves year after year. And for some of us, we don't get a chance to vote for a woman. For example, in Lifford Stranorda, there wasn't a single woman on the ballot paper in 2019. And so you sort of think, well, what's that about? Why is that happening? And I suppose what we tried to do about that was to start at the beginning, because women didn't know where to start. And, myself quite naively at one stage thought that if you wanted to run for election, you could just waltz into the local library and pick up a book off the shelf that said, this is how you run for election. But you can't, it didn't exist. So we actually wrote it, and we put workshops together that go through the guidebook chapter by chapter. So it's little things like that, I think, that will really, really start to make a difference. That there's actually a clear pathway with the likes of See Her Elected, that this is where you start. If you're not from a political family, if you've never been in a political party, but you're as mad as hell and actually want to see your voice reflected in the council, this is where you start. And it's to try and bring women from across the Northwest together in Donegal Town at the end of the month to have that conversation. What can I do? It's pretty bad, the low numbers of women across the whole Northwest. So what can I do? So what we would love to see coming into Donegal Town on the 24th of February is women who might already have it in their head that they're going to run, and they want to hear from women like themselves, from Mary Coughlin, from Senator Eileen Flynn, from the county councillors who'll be there, Finola Armstrong-Maguire from Leitrim, and Mary-Therese Galler, who I know has been on the show, and Niamh Kennedy likewise, 2 councillors from Donegal, just to hear how did they go about it and what can we learn from them. But also those women who think, God, I never thought of running for election. I wonder, where do you start? Because we'll be there to say, well, we have a very practical and simple pathway in place, and just walk with us, and we'll show you. But the other group of women I would love to come along to this is the women who know well that they're never ever going to run for election, but at the same time they would like to get behind a woman to help her get elected, because we've a very experienced director of electors in Edel McSharry from Sligo, who's going to come along and talk to those women in particular who know they're not going to run for election, but would go out of their way to try and help another woman get elected. So, this isn't going to be a lecture. There'll be plenty of opportunities for questions and conversations on the day.
Maybe people might attend and be inspired as well, Michelle. In business, for instance, I think in this county we have a couple of really, very impressive business networks, and I know that's what See Her is to a great extent. But it would be great, I presume, to see, in local areas, the same sort of networking of women in politics specifically, until such time as there's some sort of equality in numbers. As we see in business communities, like there's amazing meetings that take place in different areas around that really, really well attended. Lots of women supporting each other in business. Well, how can I help you? And what's mutually beneficial here? And I know, as I say, I'm not saying this is, I know See Her's doing a lot of this, but it can't be everywhere all of the time. It would be great to see those things spring up sort of organically, wouldn't it? So you have 50 women in a room in Inishowen and say, well, how can we get 3 women elected in the Inishowen Municipal District?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because it was kind of part of the inspiration for this, because we were finding we had, like that, a woman who might be thinking about it in the Milford area, and somebody else who might be quite near her who knew that they didn't want to run but might get behind a woman. So it was to try and get all of those people together and just ask them a simple question: what can you do to see her elected? And this might be the start of that network. And as you said, the Donegal Women in Business Network, fantastic, chaired there by Joe Daly from Donegal Town. Fantastic. And wouldn't it be great if out of this came that kind of a network for women in politics in the county? And See Her elected would be, very happy to support that, if that's what the women in the room who come together would like to see happening.
Because I just have this in my head of a woman hearing this and being inspired, but in a party politics situation, although I understand former Taoiseach Mary Coughlin has a role in the candidate selection for Fianna Fáil in the next election, unless I'm mistaken. But sometimes as a woman you might have to go into a room full of men that have been... You know what I mean? And right, okay, so the seminar entitled What Can You Do to See Her Elected for Local Elections 2024 runs from 10:30am to 1:30pm in the Central Hotel, Donegal Town, on Friday, February the 24th. It's free to attend, but obviously they want to know the numbers, so you're asked to register in advance by emailing info@seeherelected.ie. Other guests include councillors Finola Armstrong-Maguire, Mary-Therese Gallagher, as you heard, Niamh Kennedy, 2 Donegal reps. Obviously, almost inevitably, some people are saying Donegal Town, very south of the county.
It's
is there any plans?
It's aimed at the
anything?
northwest, so it's Sligo, Leitrim, and Donegal. So we picked Donegal Town as accessible for all of those 3 counties.
Okay, that's understandable. Very finally, we've talked in the past, and I've tried not to go over some of the same ground again myself. You always come with something new, of course. Talked about how it can be difficult for men or women, right? Let's just whoever it is, because of the makeup of politics, the way meetings are held and all that kind of stuff. I think there was a great opportunity during lockdown where meetings were done in different ways, a mixture of remotely, in person at different times, shorter meetings at times. There was a lot of changes at that point. And I just thought maybe that would have been a really good opportunity to have a look at how councils are run and operated, to see if things need to be done, so that a teacher, for example, might also choose to enter local politics. Now, I know some do, but you need a very accommodating principle and what have you. Do you think that was an opportunity missed, maybe, to see if we can do politics in a way that's more accessible for people?
Yeah, I do, Greg. I would agree with you on that. And women councillors actually across the whole region are to the front in calling for hybrid meetings to remain in place for county council and municipal district meetings, to not to revert back to completely in-person meetings. And the county councillors from Donegal, female councillors from Donegal, are part of a larger group of a network of female county councillors called the Women's Regional Caucus. And one of the things that they are looking for is they're trying to do, when in their network, they're trying to do politics a little bit differently, so they can bring that learning back into their county councils, like, voting in polls that remain open for an extended period of time. But yeah, the COVID did bring in some very positive new ways of doing council business, and it would be a shame if we lost that.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, as always. I'll remind people when we finish this item how they can register and what have you. See you soon. Thanks very much indeed. Okay, that is Dr. Michelle Maher there. See her elected programme manager, Mary T. Sweeney, stood in the last local elections. Her party Aim to are putting forward quite a number of female reps, or candidates, should I say, for 2024. What's the challenge, Mary T., particularly as a woman, or is there a particular challenge in your view as a woman in getting elected? And good morning to you.
Good morning, listeners. Good morning, Greg. Listen, I don't know what it is. There's a huge traction to into women naturally are coming forward and wanting to stand and wanting to speak out. And thankfully, like we had discussed this at our Ardèche about having a quota. And we were saying that we would have a quota of a percentage of women. We didn't need it. We don't naturally need it. And thankfully, the women are coming forward. So I would also be delighted to see women coming forward. I'm actually looking for a few extra men. You know what I mean? Because I think it's important to have a natural balance of whoever is best suited for the job. Because it is difficult, and I'm not elected, but I'm working on the ground as a community activist for years. Mm-hmm. And there's certainly an intrusion, even at my level, in your lifestyle and having to attend things and go to things to keep your ear to the ground of what's happening. But it's a great opportunity, and I'm delighted to hear about the conference, and I'll be at it on the 24th.
And, you know, you were an incredibly strong candidate in the last elections. There were others as well that I think, you know, there's quite a few women candidates that I think would have made a big difference on the local authority. What is there?
I haven't heard anything about it.
No, I'm saying in the last election. Do you know what I mean? I think, you know, you were a strong candidate. There was all the strong candidates that were very close. I think you and others would have made a really interesting contribution to the council. What I was getting to, Mary T, is is there an issue with the electorate in sort of taking a chance or backing a woman, or maybe you don't want them to do it on that level? Maybe you want it to be on what the person is the arguments that are being made. You know, what would you like to see from the electorate in 2024?
I would like the electorate to, I think, and they're well capable of getting. Shows like yours are undoubtedly very, very important for a certain percentage of the Donegal constituencies to hear and to get a feeling that you know somebody who's going to stand. And that can never transfer in print the way it does when you listen and you hear the honesty in somebody's voice and on the radio in debate or in a live debate where you don't have time to do rehearse. The beautiful thing about Aintu is I don't have to do rehearsed scripts, and it's common sense all the way for me. And I speak about what I have experience about or what I've known about or people have come to me about. And I think that when you're trying to make, and I really do encourage women to stand up and go forward, of course, but I do think that you can't put people into positions that they're not comfortable with, you know, and we have got to look for natural leaders. We've got to look for people that are prepared to stand out and go forward and sometimes fall and pick yourself up again. But it's also important about having a good team around you. And the team is what's going to support the person. For anybody to go into politics to have an ego on one person, to think you can do it on your own, you can't do it on your own. You need the team around you that are backing you, that are supporting your views, and you may not agree on everything, but the core of the message you're getting out there is important.
And I think that's where it's kind of
forward on.
Sorry, Mary T. I think that's what's kind of interesting from Michelle, because she is calling on women who maybe themselves don't see themselves standing for election, but would like to row in behind someone to form part of a team, because you do need a big team really to compete with often and sometimes parties, for example, that have great resources in terms of feet on the ground.
Well, the reality, what I have found is you need people, men and women, to say, okay, I'm going to have to get X to take the children to football tonight because Mary T needs me to come to a meeting here about this, that or the other. Or I need somebody to come down and read my press release to see if it's how many mistakes have I made today in it. You know what I mean? It's all of that you need networking together. And I haven't, perhaps there's an email going to come to me, but I would have thought that the best thing to do is to reach out to all of us women who stood in the last local elections and the general. I was the only woman that stood in the general election, And I honestly didn't feel there was great support from the media to say, oh, isn't Donegal has only one woman? Let's get behind this woman. Let's support her.
See, the thing is though,
is there a possibility?
I've sat opposite women running for election, and I was actually corrected for bringing gender into it. Do you know what I mean? Like in the past.
Are you serious, Greg? Greg, only for you, I wouldn't have an audience in Donegal.
No. My point is that sometimes. If you like, as I say, I've sat opposite a couple of women here that were contesting elections, and sort of put it to them about them being women or women voting through them, and I was corrected and says, no, I'm standing as a person, and I'm you know what I mean. So in terms of sort of highlight,
the nonsense people talk.
I know, but in terms of highlighting. Singling you out as the only woman standing from someone like me who doesn't want to put my foot in it. It's not that I wouldn't be on it. It's just I'd be afraid that you might say to me, well, Greg, it doesn't matter if I'm a woman. I'm standing on my platform. Do you get me, Mary T? So it's hard to read the room all the time.
I know exactly, and I do. I sympathise and I empathise with what you're saying. But you see this political correctness, Greg. When you see nonsense, I'm sorry, I have to call nonsense. And that's not the way I work. If I see somebody, I think, even in society, if I saw a young person that I thought would suit a course, a career direction, a job opportunity that I've heard about, then you identify the person and the job or the opportunity. You don't start to look at their gender. You know, if you think somebody's going to be a good nurse or a good paramedic, a good shop assistant, somebody, Aldi's looking for somebody, Lidl or Tesco's or Dunnes Stores, you know, all of those shops, I've seen people getting opportunities in there that hadn't the confidence to move forward. And that's what some people need. They need sometimes somebody to speak out and just give you the confidence, and the same for elections and for politics. And as I say, I'm also looking for candidates in the other areas of Donegal, so please contact me if you share my views and my politics.
Do you intend to contest the local elections, Mary T, or are you going to wait for the generals?
God sparing me, I'll be contesting my health, and God sparing me, I will be contesting, yes, unless we find somebody offers to come forward that's a better candidate than me, and I will respectfully back down. If somebody else comes forward who's a bigger profile and would feel that they would like to take this mantle up, I'll have to go forward at an AGM, which is on now next week, on the 2 weeks' time, on the 24th, in Dillon's Hotel for Aintu, so everybody's welcome to that. It'll be going into the papers and onto Highlands. And if somebody comes forward and has a bigger team to support them, I have to, it's a democratic policy. Whoever gets the vote gets going forward from the Commons. You know, it's, and I have no ego about it. I still work behind the scenes and do the jobs that I have to do.
Right, okay. Well, we look forward to having you on if you do end up being selected. So I'm sure I'll speak to you between now and then. Do you want to quickly mention is there a meeting coming up as it relates to the hospital just while you're on? Has that been scheduled yet? Just while you're here.
Just to follow back on what we spoke about in relation to the hospital campaign, the action campaign. It's fantastic news that there's a facility opening up now for X-rays, additional X-ray facility across from the hospital there. A great step forward, but not going far enough. We're still feeling that the feedback from me, from the medical personnel, that a minor injury unit would really, really alleviate the pressure in the county. And being honest, there's a consideration that there's something needs to happen up in the north. We have extremities in Donegal because of the geography of the location and the rural locations. So we really need to look. So we're asking people from all the extremities, the Carndonnas, the Fannas, the Hornhead, right round to Dunlow and Kellybegs and Glencolmkill, come into the meeting on Thursday, the 16th, in Dillon's Hotel at 7:30, and either put yourself forward to get elected onto the committee, or bring your views in of what you need in your community. Is it something care for the aged? Is it something for your age in the facility? What can we do to alleviate people having to travel into A&E in Letterkenny? Is there anything you've identified in your community that you want us to represent on your behalf? There's two strands to the meeting on Thursday night. One strand is to get additional representation from around the county onto the committee. And the second strand is to get the views of the people that don't feel confident enough to go forward, but are confident enough to come to an internal meeting and say, listen, can you please ask to do this for me? I'm not saying we're going to get all we ask for, but at least we can make honest representation for the people around the county.
All right, listen, thanks very much for that. I appreciate your time. Take care of yourself.
Thank you, Greg.
Bye-bye. Mary T. Sweeney there of the Aintu Party.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Your next move matters, so why not move better? Start your move to permanent TSB today. Apply in-app for our award-winning current account. So don't just move bank, move better. Apply in-app today. Applications for Explore Current Account in-app for over 18 personal customers. Qualifying criteria, fees and charges, terms and conditions apply. Awarded bonkers.ie Best Current Account 2022. Permanent TSB PLC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Are you tired of waiting for treatment or surgery? Did you know you can receive immediate treatment across the border under the new NI planned healthcare scheme at potentially no cost? Donegal patients are still being treated with us at Kingsbridge Private Hospital Northwest post-Brexit. The process is easy and our dedicated team will help guide you through it. So why wait? Contact us today to find out how you can skip the waiting lists and receive treatment in Northern Ireland. Visit kingsbridgeprivatehospital.com, because life matters.
Hello, thanks for waiting. Could you hold the line?
Yeah, no problem.
Now, how can I help you?
Hi, I'm looking to make some updates to my insurance policy.
Have you tried our online portal?
I thought it would be easier to call.
Yeah. No. You're going to have to log on to amend your policy. Thanks for calling.
No, wait. I don't know my password.
Get the feeling that your insurer doesn't want to talk to you? At Local Insurance, we understand your needs. Call today for a bespoke quote or find us online at localinsurance.ie. Local Insurance, we'll get you sorted. The Local Insurance Network, DAC Trading's Local Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Local Insurance is a tied insurance intermediary of Acorn Brokerage Limited. Acorn Brokerage Limited, trading as Acorn Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Wild Atlantic Way adventures await you this spring with a midweek escape to the luxury Radisson Blu Hotel and Spa, Sligo, from just €120 with complimentary breakfast each morning. Indulge in afternoon tea overlooking Sligo Bay. Unwind with a treatment at the spa. Enjoy a delicious meal in the brasserie. Sit back and relax in Waves Bar, or surround yourself with the best of Sligo's outdoor pursuits right on your doorstep. Book now at radsligo.com for the perfect spring midweek escape.
If you need advice on what's best for coughs or colds, or what's best for sore throats or flu, just ask at your local Brennan's Pharmacy. If you need advice on the best vitamins and tonics to put a pep in your step, just ask at your local Brennan's Pharmacy. Whether it's about backaches, headaches or tummy aches, your Brennan's Pharmacy team can help. If you need advice from someone you trust, we're here for you at your local Brennan's Pharmacy, Buncrana, Clonmany and Creeslow.
Do you know what I love about Letterkenny Shopping Centre? I love it because everything I need is under one roof. There's fashion shopping for women and men, health foods and cosmetics, Tesco's and Pennies, free parking and late night shopping Thursday and Friday. I love it because Letterkenny Shopping Centre has it all, including homeware, jewellery, hair and beauty and Revolution Laundry and their free car park. Letterkenny Shopping Centre. So much choice and open 7 days.
At last, a technology that's impossible to ignore. Here we have a device that grabs people's attention. Introducing a technology that's truly impossible to miss. Imagine a technology where it's impossible to scroll past your ads. Welcome to radio. Advertising that's unscrollable. Visit radiocenterireland.ie to see what radio can do for your product or brand.
Are you in the process of moving to a new bank? Maybe you already have. Well, if you pay insurance or a pension policy by direct debit, just be sure to change your bank details so your policy continues uninterrupted. It's easy. Just contact your insurer, pension provider or broker today. For more information, visit understandinginsurance.ie/bank exit. Brought to you by Insurance Ireland.
For over 20 years, CarZone has been the trusted name in Ireland's motoring marketplace, bringing 1 million car buyers and sellers together every month. And now, buying or selling a car has never been easier on CarZone with expert tools and advice. Download the CarZone app or check out carzone.ie. CarZone, Ireland's trusted motoring marketplace.
Donegal Denture Clinic, Letterkenny. Denture problems? We can help. At Donegal Denture Clinic, we customise, personalise and tailor your dentures to suit you. Call us for a free consultation on 91 25 25 3. Find us at Ballyrain, Letterkenny, beside Rossin College. Medical cards welcome. For all your denture needs, call Donegal Denture Clinic on 9125 253. Online at donegaldentureclinic.ie.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. From March 26th, Aer Lingus will operate a daily service to London Heathrow, providing onward connections to 80 plus destinations worldwide. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Largely dry but cloudy this morning with just a few patches of light rain or drizzle. A few brighter spells will break through. Breezy with southwest winds increasing fresh to strong and gusty. Highest temperatures 8 to 9 degrees. Now a band of rain will move into the northwest later this afternoon. Tracking southeastwards, turning colder with winds veering northwesterly and moderating as winds clear. Right, thanks for keeping us busy as always on the phone lines 08660 25000 and by calling us on 074 91 25000. Good morning. I live in the Gaeltacht and I watch TG Cahir quite often, but the station will lose my support and respect if this programme is aired. I was going to watch the programme because, like most people in the country, I thought this programme was recorded with the blessing of the families, but now my way of supporting the people of Creasla is by not watching it. God bless them all, and I'll be joining you in that one. Greg, the people of Donegal, out of respect for the wishes of the people of Creasla, should not watch the programme tonight, maybe at a later date. That's all I want to say on the matter. Thanks, Sean. As I say, I'll be joining you in that regard. And other people are free not to watch the Creasla programme. It's airing to shine light on the efforts of those in the area and the amazing work they did. It wasn't too soon to have a truck run at the weekend and a big do in the Tassie after. So why is this too soon? This may trigger people to donate to the cause from all over the country. Surely a good thing. Also, we've seen multiple interviews from those at the scene already. Was all that too soon? Well, listen, at the end of the day, there are people who've taken part in the programme that don't want it to air now. And secondly, there's a big difference, I think, between a fundraiser and then a programme which really offers nothing to it as such. That's what some might feel. Listen, I don't question the motives of the people behind making it. I'm sure they're very well intended. But listen, you have to listen to people, don't you? I would have thought you would have to. All right, then, let's take a break for the news and obituary notices. Stay right where you are. An interesting hour on the way, you'll agree.
Wet n Wild is celebrating 20 years in business with a massive 20% off absolutely every product in store in February. Choose any top outdoor brand product in store and we will deduct 20% of all prices at the till. Buy premium quality outdoor clothing, footwear and equipment today and save 20%.
Donegal Denture Clinic, Letterkenny. Denture problems? We can help. At Donegal Denture Clinic, we customise, personalise and tailor your dentures to suit you. Call us for a free consultation on 91 25 25 3. Find us at Ballyrain, Letterkenny, beside Rossin College. Medical cards welcome. For all your denture needs, call Donegal Denture Clinic on 91 25 25 3. Online at donegaldentureclinic.ie.
Get a great Clarins gift this week from McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. You'll receive 4 beauty treats and a gorgeous beauty bag when you purchase 2 Clarins skincare products, one to be a moisturiser or serum. This great Clarins offer is available while stocks last, in store at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny and online at mcgees.ie, where the best costs less. For any skincare advice, call in and talk to the resident skincare consultants Mary or Gemma.
Super Value makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. We match Aldi on the products you love, like Super Value whipped cream 350ml, $1.79. Super Value spaghetti 1 kilo, $1.09. 2. Get thousands of special offers. And 3. Money off vouchers every week on the app. Super Value makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3.
At Hickey, Clark and Langan Insurance Brokers, they compare quotes from all the leading insurers, so you get a great price. Home, motor and van, farm, holiday home, travel and liability insurance, they quote them all. So if the worst happens, you're covered. For a competitive insurance quote today, call Hickey, Clark and Langan on 9126688 or pop into their office at Ballymacool, Letterkenny. Hickey, Clark and Langan General Insurances Limited, trading as Hickey, Clark and Langan, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Don't sleep in and miss the very latest beds and mattress offers from dfibeds.ie, Ireland's leading online bed and mattress retailer. You'll get a comfy Irish-made mattress, upholstered base and headboard from an amazing €229. Check out the full range at dfibeds.ie. Delivery free and guaranteed to you within 7 working days. DFI Beds. Sleep well, live well.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Michaela Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. Sinn Féin is to bring a motion before the Dáil today proposing a mortgage interest rate relief for homeowners. Donegal Deputy Pearse Doherty, the party's finance spokesperson, is calling on the Minister for Finance to accept the temporary relief to support borrowers struggling with rising interest rates. He says with another interest rate hike expected in the coming weeks, government intervention is vital as people continue to grapple with the cost of living crisis.
Some people haven't had it passed on, but hundreds of thousands of customers have had these interest rates increases passed on to their mortgage payments, and it means that they are paying thousands of euro more this year than they were last year. And for that reason, it's important that the government reintroduce mortgage interest relief. It used to exist up until 2021. It was got rid of completely at that time, and I think it needs to be introduced at a targeted, tailored and time-bound fashion to assist families in terms of the cost of living crisis that they're currently experiencing.
The need for a minor injuries clinic in the Northwest is one of the issues set to be discussed at an upcoming public meeting. The closest facility is currently located in Monaghan. The Letterkenny Hospital Campaign Group believes a Donegal-based clinic would alleviate the pressure on the hospital's emergency department and GP services in the county. The group is hosting a meeting on Thursday, February the 16th at 7:30 at Dillon's Hotel, Letterkenny. Mary T. Sweeney, chair of the Letterkenny Hospital Campaign Group, says the meeting aims to identify the specific needs of people right across Donegal.
Together, hopefully, we'll have a cross-representative from across the county to identify what particular needs are met, because there's a possibility that we need to identify specifically for Carndonagh or for Killybegs or for Dunlow that additional services could be put in place in the winter months, whether it's a respiratory clinic or what the people need.
A man remains in a serious condition in hospital following a crash in Ballybuffet yesterday. He was injured in a two-vehicle collision at around 11:30 in the Navanny area. The Navanny-Dreenan Road remains closed. Garda Forensic Collision investigators are to conduct an examination of the scene this morning. Diversions are in place and motorists are advised to avoid the area and seek an alternative route. Ireland's on a trajectory to require 250 TDs by the middle of the century, according to the Irish Times. Under the Irish Constitution, for between 20 to 30,000 of the population, there must be one TD. Census 2022's preliminary results revealed Ireland's population has exceeded 5 million, the first time since 1851. It now means nationally there are 32,022 people per TD. In comparison, the British Parliament has one MP per 92,000 people. Well, a seminar to promote the need for more women in politics in the Northwest is being held later this month. Just 4 out of 37 councillors in Donegal are female. A number of guest speakers at the See Her Elected and 50-50 Northwest seminar on February the 24th in Donegal Town include former Taoiseach Mary Coughlin, Senator Eileen Flynn and councillors Mary-Therese Gallagher and Niamh Kennedy. Dr Michelle Maher, Programme Manager for See Her Elected, told today's 9 till noon show that unless more women get involved in politics, there will be no significant change. She believes a greater gender balance creates a greater democracy.
None of this is about women being better than men or men being better at women. It's about getting the balance right in the room. We live in a democracy, and I suppose some of us might struggle to define what democracy is, but we would all instinctively know it's something worth fighting for, as we see happening on our own continent. And one of the things that underpins democracy is that when we elect a body of people to represent us, they should look like us.
And a John Fonahy farmer has become the new chair of the County Donegal Executive of the Irish Farmers Association. Joe Sweeney is also a farm family support officer with the Inishowen Development Partnership. He succeeds Brandon McLaughlin, who held the position for 4 years. Mr Sweeney told Highland Radio's Chris Ashmore that he looks forward to his new role.
It means a lot to me because farming's probably in my blood. I'm farming all my life, so I'm working with farmers all my life, actually, working on Inishowen, and it's all to do with farming, so it's just another add-on.
Weather now largely dry but cloudy this morning with just a few patches of light rain or drizzle. Highest temperatures of 8 or 9 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
The obituary notices this Wednesday morning, February the 8th. The death has taken place of Gerard Jerry McMonigal, St Paul's Park, Greencastle. Removal this afternoon from Liam Collins' funeral premises, Culdaff, at 2 p.m. going to his daughter Bridget McGonigal's home at Carrow Trasna, Greencastle. Funeral from there on Friday morning at 10:15 a.m. for 11 a.m. Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Ballybrack, Moville, followed by burial in the adjoining graveyard. Family time please from 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. Family flowers only, donations if desired to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member. The death has occurred of Kyle Mooney, 7 Roseville Heights, Killybegs, County Donegal. Remains are reposing at his residence from 7 p.m. till 9 p.m. today, and tomorrow from 12 p.m. until 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. until 9 p.m. Removal from his home on Friday morning at 10:30 for funeral mass at 11 a.m. in St Mary of the Visitation Church, Killybegs. Burial afterwards in the local cemetery. Mass will be streamed live on mcnmedia.tv. The death has occurred of Dita McDade, Ballymoney, Burt, County Donegal. Dita will be reposing at her late residence from 11 a.m. this morning and all day tomorrow. Funeral leaving her late residence, Ballymoney, Burt, on Friday morning at 10:20 a.m. going to St Angus Church, Burt, for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass, with burial afterwards in Burt Cemetery. House private please on the morning of the funeral. The death has taken place of Mary Donoghue, Nee Hegarty, Farquhar, Milford. Remains are reposing at her home today from 12 noon until 10 p.m. Funeral Mass tomorrow at 12 noon in St Peter's Church, Milford, with burial afterwards in Milford Cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. Family time on the morning of the funeral. Family flowers only, donations if desired to cancer research, care of Patrick Sweeney Funeral Directors. The death has taken place of Jane McGlinchey, Nee McLaren, 19 O'Nolan Park, Strabane, and formerly of Parkhead, Glasgow. Reposing at her home. Funeral leaving her home tomorrow morning at 9:20 a.m. for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Melmount at 10 a.m. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family time please from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has taken place of Ellen Dobson, Nee Tees, Dromore, Kilmacrennan. Ellen's remains are reposing at her late residence. Funeral service will take place in Trenta Presbyterian Church tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m, followed by interment at the adjoining cemetery. Funeral service can be viewed on Trenta Presbyterian Church Facebook page. Family time please from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. Family flowers only, please. Donations to the Alzheimer's Society, care of any family member, or Charlie McLafferty, Funeral Director. The death has occurred of Margaret Peggy Doherty, Nee Callan, 1 Plunkett O'Boyle Terrace, Letterkenny. Reposing at her late residence today from 12 noon till 9 p.m, with rosary at 9 p.m. Family time please on the morning of the funeral. Funeral from there tomorrow morning, going to St Eunan's Cathedral for 11 a.m. Mass, which can be viewed live at churchservices.tv, followed by burial in the adjoining family plot in Comwell Cemetery. Family flowers only please, donations if wished to Donegal Hospice and the Daffodil Centre, Letterkenny University Hospital, care of Pascal Blake, Funeral Director. The death has taken place of Frances Devaney, Nee McGarrigle, Tober Ballindrate, formerly of Strabane, reposing at her home. Funeral from there tomorrow afternoon at 12:20 p.m. for Requiem Mass in St Patrick's Church, Murlough, Lifford at 1 p.m, followed by interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers please to the Donegal Hospice, care of Quigley Funeral Directors. Family time please from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live at clonleaparish.com. The sudden death has occurred of Shanice Gill, Mindoran, Clonmany. Her remains are reposing at her grandparents, Dennis and Kathleen McDade's home in Mindoran, Clonmany. Wake private to family, close friends and neighbours only, please. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m, going to St Mary's Church, Clonmany for Requiem Mass at 11 a.m, with interment immediately afterwards in the new cemetery. Family time please from 10 p.m. tonight and before the funeral tomorrow morning. family flowers only. Donations, if desired, to Ard Avon Alzheimer's Unit, Karen Dunna, care of any family member or McFeely Funeral Directors. The death has taken place of Joe Tish Gallagher, Upper Dunmore, Falcarra. His remains are reposing at his late residence. Funeral Mass at 11 a.m. in St Finnan's Church, Falcarra, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on mcnmedia.tv. The death has taken place of Pat Bolan, Knockastoller, Bunbeg, originally from Swinford, County Mayo. Reposing overnight at St Mary's Church, Derrybeg. Funeral Mass there this morning at 11 a.m, with interment afterwards in Mahergallen Cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on Kieran Rorty Funeral Director's Facebook page. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
At Ulster Bank, our team is continuing to close current and deposit accounts, along with some of our branches. At this time, if your notice period and your deadline has passed, your account is now queued for closure. All personal and business account deadlines are fast approaching. You must take urgent action. If you are still relying on your bank account and in need of more support, please contact us immediately. Visit ulsterbank.ie, your local branch, or call 0818 210 260. Call costs may vary and calls from mobiles may not be free. Ulster Bank Ireland DAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
And you welcome back to the 9 till noon show. Good morning if you're just joining us. I want to give you a quick reminder, if that's okay, of the Highland Fling in Glasgow, which is taking place at the start of May. We've 3 great nights of entertainment for you. David James and the Ryan Turner Band, Declan Early and guests, Robert Mazzell, and a whole host of other talent to entertain you. Those are 3 big shows, and there's other cracking entertainment in the 4-star Crown Plaza Hotel in Glasgow. So if you want to go and explore Glasgow during the day or whenever you want to do so, you're more than free to do that as well. We are going to take you over there on luxury coach travel. Your hotel's paid for, your breakfasts included, your dinners included, the 3 nights of musical entertainment, that's all included. If you want to book a seat, you can do so now for €100. Maybe it could be a Valentine's present, as I said yesterday. To book a ticket or more information, call us now on 07491 25,000. So you can book your place for you and your other half, or just you, and then pay in over the course of the next couple of months if that would suit you better. But it's going to be a great few days, and I'm sure everyone who goes will enjoy it. Okay, so just to give you a wee heads up on that, Katie will take your calls now on 07491 25,000 if you've any other questions. A caller says, I disagree that women are kept out of politics. I'd vote for a woman as quick as a man if she represented my views. I'm afraid ain't to. Simply don't do that. Gender equality or gender inequality no longer exists. Half of Europe, New Zealand and many other countries are now run by women. This row of women that women are kept out is no longer true. Okay, but we're talking in the context of the local elections. And, you know, there's 8% of councillors are women. We talk in the context of the general election. 1 candidate was a woman. Now, there are people are going to sort of stand as independents, but parties need to get behind them as well. I think there's definitely an inequality in this country. Greg, would it not depend on the woman's policies? I personally didn't vote for Mary T because of her pro-life campaign on abortion. I'm a woman that's not putting a woman's rights first. Yeah, indeed. And I understand on an issue like that, maybe Mary T might be more divisive than another one. And I think Mary T will understand that. I don't mean that with any disrespect, but it is a core issue that you will not sort of put to one side, I think, to vote a certain way, regardless of what side of the debate you fall on. Women vote for men because, asks a listener. Another, could you announce the registration details for that women's conference again, please? And thank you. I will. It's under another pile of papers, but bear with me, I will. A caller says, sure, we had a very active, competent lady running in the last council and general elections here in Donegal in the person of Mary T. Sweeney, and I didn't hear any women's groups offering much, if any, support for her. Loyalty to traditional parties seems to be more important to many people, but I think another listener has highlighted the pro-life stance that Mary T. Sweeney takes, and it's not for, you know, it is, as I say, it's one of those make or breaks for people dependent on which way they vote. A caller says council chamber so full of men would put a woman off running. I say this is a man, but it must be the best representative electorates, not because of her gender. So it must be the best to elect, not because of their gender. Yeah, indeed. Should we add I just read that one. Okay. That's just an insight into some of the comments coming in. Keep them coming to us, 086 60 25,000. WhatsApps and texts to that number, or call us on 07491 25,000. Talking history, always really popular. With Dr. Joe a little later on, our focus is going to be on telecommunications and Malin Head, and I'll be really interested about that because I was up in Malin during the summer. We were, as the show was, and just saw the little points that are there and their history. I really am looking forward to a deep dive into that with Dr. Joe. So stay tuned for that, and so much more besides.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Wednesday, the 8th of February. You're playing on the blue sheet. The reference number is S8. It's game number 6. The numbers are 58, 82, 4, 74, 49, 1, 2, 41, 26, and finally 20. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI Bingo information at highlandradio.com.
If you're about to use an electrical appliance, like your washing machine, which uses a lot of energy, just ask the question, is this a good time?
Yeah, it's fairly breezy out. You're good to go.
If it's windy out, it is a good time, because wind generates renewable energy, which Ireland will be relying on more and more. To find out the best times for your electricity usage, sign up to our pilot at esbnetworks.ie/pilot.
For over 20 years, CarZone has been the trusted name in Ireland's motoring marketplace, bringing 1 million car buyers and sellers together every month. And now, buying or selling a car has never been easier on CarZone with expert tools and advice. Download the CarZone app or check out carzone.ie. CarZone, Ireland's trusted motoring marketplace.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, menopause symptoms, digestive issues, anxiety, aches and pains, or a lack of energy? The highly trained team at The Natural Way Letterkenny can provide advice on natural remedies for a number of individual health issues. The Natural Way also has its own brand of herbal treatments to help fight fatigue, relieve digestive discomfort, maintain a healthy immune system, and alleviate common menopause symptoms. The Natural Way at Letterkenny Shopping Centre, your one-stop health shop.
Okay, now, as you would have heard on this programme yesterday during Community Garda Information, there was a strange event in 6 tractors and a forklift was stolen from a yard. Now, that in and of itself is very inconvenient for the plant owner. But then they were brought on a so-called joyride, and I know some people don't use that phrase because it kind of sets a wrong tone. But anyway, they were taken then to the green area, the shared area, and made a mess of the green. Then they were abandoned and the culprits fled. Andrew McGonigal is chair of the Malin Development Association. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Greg.
Like, it is a strange one, isn't it? And it's really regrettable.
Yeah, it's disappointing to say the least. Like, our village green is one of our features in our town, and we spend a lot of effort in maintaining it, keeping it grass cut, trees pruned and all that, and it's just disappointing to see that sort of antisocial behaviour. Of course it is.
How hard is it going to be to restore the green to its former glory? I know it's the time of year where everything doesn't look as best as it can anyway, as we're just starting to see growth return. But is it going to be difficult to get it back up to ship shape?
No, not too bad. There's quite a bit of flex done on it, but it could have been worse. It could have been far worse. So we're happy enough with that part of it. But we will work. We have had one guy working on it, Rick McColgan, has already done some work on it, and we will fertilise it and put sand and all on it to get it back to its original state.
Do you think those responsible sort of did it on purpose? Was it just a bit of horseplay? Maybe they don't realise what they're doing. They think in their minds that this is fun. They don't realise the consequences. They don't realise that the community feels attacked?
Yeah, the community does feel attacked, and it's antisocial behaviour. I think they don't realise, they don't seem interested in what they're doing or why they're doing it. They don't seem to know what they're. I can't understand their psyche of what they would try and do something like that, because it's antisocial, as I say. It's well organised, because there must have been at least 5 or 6 of them, so they've obviously discussed this or worked on it.
That's what makes it really quite weird. And why tractors in a forklift? I mean, I don't know. Are these videos going to appear on TikTok or something? Or I'm not saying it's young people that are doing it, but I mean, as you say, there's a plan here. What are they hoping to achieve? It's not like these are high-powered vehicles. There's not much fun in taking a forklift for a spin.
No, and it's the danger of it on the road in the middle of the night. 5 tractors. I mean, anything could have happened. Any sort of accident could have happened. And then you're into criminal activity then. So, yeah, the whole thing is disappointing, and I don't understand why they would want to do something like that. It would happen sometimes, occasionally, Halloween night. We would sort of put up with that, but this is just not Halloween night, and this is a wrong thing to do, basically.
Are you calling on those responsible to come? Are you calling on those responsible to come forward, or if it is younger people, maybe parents or guardians might sort of say, well, what were you doing at 4:30 in the morning? Yes. I think this is going to kind of be a community response here. I don't think anyone wants anyone hung, drawn and quartered, but people need to realise that this is not proper behaviour.
Exactly, yeah. I don't understand why they would do it at all, as you're saying, yeah. Like, we're disappointed as a committee. We're very disappointed, because we spent a lot of time and effort into keeping our community and maintaining our community and our environment,
Yeah.
And I don't understand why young people would want to do that. I can accept it sort of Halloween, it's just a challenge, but this is about concerted effort to just get on the town green and try and do damage.
It's not the first instance, unfortunately, in recent times. What else has happened?
On Friday night as well, we had an issue with a dumper truck moved from a council area where they were doing new footpaths for us, and a sort of low loader was taken onto the green. That was Friday night, and then the same thing happened on Sunday night. So, yeah, whether it's the same people or not, we don't know.
Any information to the guards, Andrew? I think these people need to be talked to and explain the consequences of their actions that they're putting. I'm not saying it's locals, Andrew, but I can't imagine there's not a crew from Donegal town coming up to take tractors and a forklift on a run either. So, as I say, I don't want to cast a cloud over any group of people or any particular area. But look, maybe it is people from the vicinity, and maybe they don't realise that it's their own family potentially that they're putting out here.
Exactly, yeah. Like, they obviously knew where the tractors were based, so they have to be locals to an extent. They might be 10 miles, and certainly not no more than 5 or 6 miles away from here. But no, they don't seem to realise what they're doing is wrong, but that's the way it is.
All right.
Social behaviour, what do you do?
Andrew, keep up the great work up in Malin. It's beautiful, and I'm sure you'll have the green back in ship shape in no time at all. Hopefully not have to speak to you in this context again, and we'll chat in the future again on more positive things, Andrew.
Thank you very much indeed, right. Greg.
Take care. Best of luck to you and all the crew up there. Yeah, as I say, it's pointless. It's not even fun. Come on, you can't tell me it was fun. Did those videos pop up on social media or anywhere, I wonder? I'm sure someone had the phone out. Another great organisation, Letterkenny Tidy Towns, they're having their AGM on Wednesday, the 8th of February. That is tonight at 8 p.m. It's in the Station House Hotel, Letterkenny. Everyone's welcome. If you're interested in getting involved with the 2023 project, it would be great to see you there coming from the organisers. That's the Letterkenny Tidy Towns. Always glad to see new faces, I'm sure. Tonight, 8 p.m. in the Station House Hotel, Letterkenny. All are welcome. Listener said, Greg, I needed an Now-Doc over the weekend with a sick baby. I called at 4 p.m. and was called back an hour later. At 6 o'clock, I was in the car park and was told to sit in the car because the waiting area inside was full. Once I got inside, I had to wait another 3 hours. In that 3-hour time space, 5 people in front of me left unseen. These are already clearly people who were deemed in need of care by a triage nurse. This is a service that they are looking at changing and could face cuts. It's not cuts it needs, it's an increase. Another morning, Greg. Can I highlight the streetlight out this last month on Lifford Main Street? It's pole number 12 I've contacted ESB and was told subcontractors will be contacted to contact them. It's been reported, but it's not been fixed. We can't, as residents, even see to get the key into the front door. We're concerned for our safety of our elderly residents and our cars with the streets so dark at night. Well, look, we're going to make inquiries in that, aren't we, Caroline? Yes, we are, because we promised at the start of the show, if you give us a call, we'll try and sort things out for you. So we'll see what we can do. That's a light on Lifford Main Street. And your concerns are for obvious reasons. Leave it with us. We'll see if we can move that along for you. Greg, waking up, it's called badness. Of course, these young ones know they're doing wrong. It's going on far too much. They should be made to make good the wrong. I understand, and I'm sorry, I do sometimes maybe come across as a little bit too forgiving. I just think that maybe sometimes young people don't know, that's all. And if they realised, they might not do it. But again, maybe I'm being naive, and I apologise for that. From Callum, it shows with power, women in politics, that a great job that politicians, Michelle O'Neill for Sinn Féin, and trying to get Ireland together. Another here, there's a bigger elephant in the room in relation to women in politics, which is political parties, which are mostly self-serving. It's the same all over the world. It's all about power. They say Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael spent years on civil war politics, yet when it meant that they might lose power, they suddenly threw away any values and took power. There's always a compromise when it comes to gaining power. The modern-day Sinn Féin politicians also stood on no on abortion because they were a pro-life party, but then turned to yes because it meant votes. Okay, that's that listener's opinion. Right, okay, shall we take a break and clear the decks for Dr. Joe Kelly, who is of course a historian. We're going to be talking history very, very shortly. Stay right where you are.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
Take something old and make it new with the Vacant Property Refurbishment Grant. Get up to €30,000 for a vacant property or €50,000 for a derelict property to help you create your new home. Plus, the scheme now includes cities, towns, villages and all rural areas, so there are more options than ever. Breathe new life into an old home. Head to gov.ie/vacancy for more information on how to apply. An initiative of the Government of Ireland.
In the final clearance at Watson Menswear Letterkenny, there's half-price shirts, polo shirts and knitwear. Also, half-price offers on top labels like Superdry and Penguin. Selected suits and footwear, also half-price. Don't miss out on big savings in the final clearance sale at Watson Menswear, Main Street, Letterkenny, and online at watsonmenswear.com. Also, a great selection of First Communion and Confirmation wear now in stock.
Attention all pet lovers and owners. Gary's Pet World Letterkenny is open 7 days per week, offering the very best value on all pet foods, accessories, grooming and care products. Call in and let our staff help you spoil your pet today. You will be amazed by the range of product for all pets, with exceptional value on all leading brands. Alternatively, you can browse and buy online at petworld.ie and we will deliver to your home.
Our wide range of 2023 Skodas are going fast. This is the sound of the Breen family getting their powerful diesel Kodiaq. And this is fully charged Fiona, driving away in her electric Skoda Enyaq. And this is the sound of someone who didn't place their order in time. Order your 2023 Skoda today, before it's too late. Skoda. Made for Ireland.
Your local Skoda dealer is DMG Motors, Clare Road, Donegal Town. Telephone 074 9721 396 or visit dmgmotors.ie. Direct from the West End and rated 5 stars by the BBC, 7 Drunken Nights. The story of the Dubliners is the ultimate feel-good show, coming to Derry's Millennium Forum on Wednesday, February 22nd. Book now at millenniumforum.co.uk or call 04871 264455.
Caller says, some mobile Vodaphones are not able to make contact with my landline and other Vodaphones. Has anyone else experienced this? Thank you. So do you have particular issues with contacting certain mobile phone operators from your landline? A caller's wondering if they're on their own. A caller says, listen, there are plenty of Gardaí, and instead of community Garda, they haven't a clue to blend into the community, and better still, they don't want to accept it's to benefit themselves, full stop. All these type of Garda are dead now that could have a normal everyday chat with the public when walking the streets. I don't know, if you give them the time and the space to go into schools and engage with people on the street, I'm sure there's plenty of Gardaí currently that would be fit to do it. Drew Harris says this listener is in a unique position to investigate and resolve the gravest mass murder in the history of the state, the Dublin and Monaghan bombings. If he's not interested in this mass murder, as they describe it here, then he's hardly going to be bothered about Garda resources in Donegal, given his background in the dirty war in the 6 counties and following recent senior appointments in the Gardaí. Then citizens of this state are oblivious to the policy direction of An Garda Síochána. This is from a person with family members in the force, they say. Greg, just a wee shout out about my 2-year-old slipped and split the inside of his lip and needed stitches on Saturday. I want to say a massive thank you to all the staff in Casualty. They were fantastic. I can't thank them enough. I got another thank you from a listener that I was supposed to read out. Someone helps them. I'll try and find that. Sometimes the messaging, my inbox be wedged, and I try and remember to mention something and then I forget. Hello, Greg. My husband got a letter from Revenue last... Don't know what happened there. My husband got a letter from Revenue last week about tax. He's on an old age pension for years. He doesn't pay tax. It wasn't his PRSI number. We'll be very careful of that because there are still people that will try and scam you by way of postage as well. If it wasn't his PRSI number, I would disregard it because that's the identifier for him. Though there's probably someone with the same name waiting on that letter that might not receive it. Greg, what about a discussion on the news that Donegal's dog wardens issued only 10 fines in as many years to irresponsible dog owners? Does not exactly fill you with confidence if you've young kids out and about. Well, listen, unfortunately, that's just been a trend for as long as... Whenever we're having the conversation, it's about enforcement, isn't it? It's not just that, it's dog fouling and dogs misbehaving or being off leads. There's zero enforcement, really, if the truth be told. Hi, Greg. Let me see here now. Hi, Greg. I would call them real thugs that wrecked lovely Malin Green. Of course, they knew what they were doing. They see not to do it in the middle of the day when people would see them. Pure thugs doing it when people are in their beds. Just hopefully there are cameras to catch them. Would just love that to happen. Okay, I get you. I understand. I'm reading the room and maybe I'm being a little bit too generous in my comments. Hi, Greg. Since the new year, I know of 10 people that have taken their own lives. Really, something needs to be done about the mental health of our people. That comes in from Sean. Sean, it's something we've tried to discuss on this programme a couple of times because these are personal tragedies and you can't speak or you don't wish to speak about them in the wake of these tragedies. But I understand where you're coming from, and I think we all know that there are an awful lot of people taking their lives of all different backgrounds and ages and gender, and we need to find an approach to reach these people, to give them an alternative. Is that the right way of phrasing it? We can't just sit idly by, but we have to find a way to do so in that it doesn't exacerbate an issue or trigger it either. But there are people that we need to reach, to speak to give them information, to give them help. And I'm open to any suggestions in how we can use this programme to do it, because in any other area of life, and we did speak to Dr. Dennis McCauley last week, and we have spoken about this issue in the past, and we've tried to get the numbers out there, and we've tried to let people know how important and special they are and to reach out. But we need to find something else, another way, I think, don't we? Because there's too many families just devastated, ripped apart. And I know some of you are listening to this, and I know you feel that pain every single day. And I don't know if we could just come together to try and come up with something that will try and reduce that number that the listener talked of there. Caller says, read the pro-abortion v pro-life text you just read out. It's a sad day for humanity. If one has to be pro-abortion to be successful, it's time the pro-life people of Donegal stood up for the right to life, the right not to be killed in your mother's womb. But of course, there are competing rights, and there's the well-being and health of the woman and her right to look after herself. These are competing rights. I'm not, and also there is then also people have different views as to when life starts. That's just the reality. And those arguments were well rehearsed during election times and referendums. It's just not quite as simple. I know when you've a certain point of view, regardless of what it is, you can see that so clearly. You can see that point so clearly. You can't understand why people don't agree with your point of view. I'm not speaking directly to you, listener. I'm speaking about us generally. But unfortunately, we all have different views on different topics, and you can't just make some big shout and as if all of a sudden we'll all agree or put our strongly held views to one side. Caroline, you might ask him to try again there. Hopefully in the next general election, the sooner better, we will have a great female Taoiseach. I think you can guess what party they're affiliated with. Hi, Greg. Is there no CCTV in Malin? Also, these vandals are off their head. It's rife everywhere. Right, okay. I'm not sure as it relates to CCTV. I presume the Garda investigation is ongoing in that regard, and they'll probably find those responsible. Let's put it like that. Hi, Greg. I've been thinking about your segment on alcohol that you did last week. I just felt I needed to put some balance on it. There once was multiple of the number of pubs operating now than 20 years ago locally. From Muff to Claw, Redcastle, there was 10 pubs. There are now 5. Successive governments have brought in policies that have driven people from the relatively safe drinking environment of a pub to the no-limit drinking at home, the smoking ban, drink driving, the huge difference in price between home and bar drinking. Now, I'm not saying that some of these measures should not have been taken, but better preparation and planning should have gone into mitigating against the negative impacts of them. Price seems to be our government's weapon of choice when it comes to following the teetotaler agenda. Can I just say at this point, doctors and nurses and what have you, and we've seen it in Canada as well, accept, and it's generally accepted, that alcohol is a carcinogenic, that it causes cancer, that even relatively low levels of alcohol consumption can trigger cancers. This is well researched. So you're not going to have anyone in health effectively saying boozing is okay. That's just a reality. But I'll read on here. And that's why they increased the price. €5 now the norm for a pint, but the sad reality is that our young are finding other less expensive ways to entertain themselves on a night out. This I fully agree with. Drugs are at epidemic proportions in our communities, yet I rarely hear it mentioned. A young person can easily buy a bag of pot or weed much cheaper than a night's drinking, and they are everywhere, typically €20 for a night. They'll buy one drink at the bar, go for their fix, and be in a drunk-like state all night. I heard yesterday that there's now heroin in a shown drug that devastated communities in the 80s. Everyone knows who the dealers are and where to get any drugs of choice. Alcohol is not the only problem. And listen, I understand exactly where you're coming from as it relates to you need a dual approach. You know, if you are going to be talking about discouraging people from drinking, you have to accept there's a possibility that people then are going to be more inclined to turn to other highs like drugs, for example. Right, okay. Shall we take this break, get it out the road and clear the decks for Dr. Joe Kelly? Can you hear me, Joe?
I can. I hope you can hear me.
I can, loud and clear. Right, I'll take this quick break and that'll leave us pretty clear until 11. Stay where you are. Okay. Back with more shortly.
In the final clearance at Watson Menswear Letterkenny, there's half-price shirts, polo shirts and knitwear. Also, half-price offers on top labels like Superdry and Penguin. Selected suits and footwear, also half-price. Don't miss out on big savings in the final clearance sale at Watson Menswear, Main Street, Letterkenny, and online at watsonmenswear.com. Also, a great selection of First Communion and Confirmation wear now in stock.
Over time, it's natural for your hearing not to be as clear as it once was. The good news is, advances in hearing aid technology may offer different solutions. Sabrina Robb here from Donegal Hearing Clinic. We provide peace of mind with hearing issues that affect people of all ages. Contact us for a consultation at Donegal Hearing Clinic on 07491 88470 or visit donegalhearingclinic.ie. Life sounds brilliant with Donegal Hearing Clinic, Letterkenny and Buncrana.
The world awaits you. Make that dream your next adventure. Cruise the Caribbean. Sail from Crete to Corsica. Soak in Santorini sunsets. dine on the shores of the Indian Ocean, stroll through cobbled streets for hidden gems, or bring the little ones to a magical wonderland. Trust the award-winning Atlantic Travel to guide your next adventure. Step through our doorway to the world. Atlantic Travel, Letterkenny.
Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure have all the equipment you need to get fit this year. Add to your home gym collection from the new range of weights, skipping ropes, resistance bands, and exercise balls, with free next day delivery on orders over €85 at michaelmurphysports.ie.
Keep out the cold, cold, cold! And ring Fleming for their full range of garage doors, agri doors, insulated doors, milking parlour doors. Fleming, 91 48 234. Charlie McClafferty Funeral Directors, serving Letterkenny and the surrounding areas for over 100 years. Charlie McClafferty Funeral Directors. Let our family take care of your family and guide you through a difficult time.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Fly daily to London Heathrow with Aer Lingus and connect to 80 plus destinations worldwide, including Boston and New York. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Rightio, let's look at the weather then. And largely dry but cloudy this morning with just a few patches of light rain or drizzle. A few brighter spells will break through. Breezy with southwesterly winds increasing, fresh to strong and gusty. Highest temperatures 8 to 9 degrees. A band of rain will then move into the northwest later this afternoon, tracking southeastwards, turning colder with winds veering northwesterly and moderating as the rain eases. Right, our historian in residence, Dr. Joe Kelly. Good morning to you, Joe. Great to have you on the show as always.
Maidin Waihagut Greg is a luck Good morning to yourself and to your listeners in Highland Radio.
Right, we are going to be talking about Marconi and the Irish and Donegal connection. Right, where should we start then?
At the beginning.
So, has he an Irish background?
Yeah, well, you know, if you were to go by the FIFA regulations for soccer internationals, he would have qualified for Ireland. He could have played football for the Republic of Ireland. But look, Marconi's a very interesting man. Like, we talk maybe today about Steve Jobs, or we talk about the likes of Thomas Edison, you know, the bulb and different things like that. Steve Jobs, the iPhone and computers and the mouse and things like that. Well, what Marconi did for technology in the sense of wireless technology would be equivalent to that. And he's often called, you know, the father of modern technology in that sense, and wireless technology. So that's maybe a little bit of the background to the man. And he was born in Italy, in Bologna, in 1874. And this is where the Irish heritage comes in. His mother was Annie Jemison. Now, she was a granddaughter of John Jemison. You know, the whiskey, famous John Jemison whiskey? Well, she was a granddaughter of John Jemison's. And she married this Italian man that would have been Marconi's father, and she lived in Italy. So, but he did come to Ireland from time to time, and particularly in Wexford, where his mother's grandparents, his maternal grandparents, that's where he would have come to stay and live for holidays and things like that. So we always had that connection with Ireland. And one must remember that stage, Ireland was still under the control of England, so it would have been seen as connected with England as well. And they would have been more aristocratic in the sense that they were wealthy, and his mum and dad were wealthy in Italy. And, you know, we talked before about the value of education and homework. He was self-educated. He had numerous languages, but he didn't have any formal education, like schooling education. But his mother encouraged him, kept encouraging him. And he then got in touch with a physicist in the University of Bologna, Augusto Righi, and he told him that he was interested in waves and how sound travelled in waves. And he told him about the different scholars that had done research. Now, oftentimes Marconi is accused of having stolen other people's work, but what he actually did was he read and learned about what others had done and brought it all together into a simplified form. So he wasn't reinventing the wheel, but he was making the wheel work more easier and far more dynamically, and that's what he did with wireless technology. And he had read people like Maxwell and Lodge and Hertz. I mean, we all know the name Hertz with frequencies and whatnot. And he'd realized in 1888 that Hertz had discovered and produced the first wave, the first radio wave. And he was wondering how this could be done wirelessly. This was what his big ambition was, and he looked at things as...
So, in other words, the waves that he would have drawn the inspiration from would have been running on a cable, effectively.
Yes.
Yeah.
And and for the communication of the time, everything needed a cable. And he said, well, can this be done without a cable?
Which is truly the biggest leap, isn't it? Because it's like, initially getting to the moon, you couldn't get to the moon initially because how could you build a ladder long enough to reach the moon, as ridiculous as that may sound. So, it's great to be able to send sounds over a wire, but for it to have broad adoption, you need to sort of break that link.
Yeah, and it's his imagination that allowed him to do that. And in 1895, he made that breakthrough. Again, his mother had really encouraged him to explore his interest in the waves and the movement of electronics and magnetic fields and things like that. And he had his own laboratory in his own house up in his attic. And it was a room about 30 meters long, and he managed, or 30 feet long, sorry. And he managed to send a signal wirelessly from one end of the room to the other. And he went downstairs and got his mother, come up and look at what I have done. And then the father went looking for wires. He was going, well, where's the wires? And the father couldn't get over that he had done this. And he emptied his wallet and said, look, there you go. That's amazing.
But before we talk more about that, anytime there is new technology, and this is not a slight against anyone, but, I remember it with, say, for instance, 3G, with deflector systems, more recently 5G, people have this nervousness about what really is it all about, what's behind it, what can it do for us. And what really kind of happens is history repeats itself. I was watching a clip last night about some Americans who were objecting to not being allowed to drink and drive. And they were using the language we use now. What's next? We're not going to be able to do this, that and the other. It's communist country. We're going to be living... You know what I mean? So back then... something that seemed magical, right? Almost like transportation, but audio transportation, teleportation almost. Did he have people that thought he was some sort of a wizard, or that this would be used, or there was some sort of, ghosts involved or something?
Brilliant question. And at the point in 1895 when he was able to put this across his laboratory in his own house, he then wrote to the Italian government, the communications department, and told them about his invention. And they didn't reply back to him. And later they found a note saying that this must be somebody in an asylum that is thinking that we can do something wirelessly. He wasn't understood. And in fact, later on, we'll see when he went to look for funding, he actually was backed by 7 corn merchants here in Ireland. The men in Ireland at that time, as I said, were part of the British Empire and would have had money, these corn merchants. And when he was in Dublin for a while, he met this man, Manliff Goodbody. I presume that's the Goodbodies that we talk about in business terms.
The brokers, is it?
Ireland. And he got him to come to his house in Clara in County Offaly, and he had prospective inspectors or investors with him as well. And he said, look, this is a young man I want you to meet, and look at his invention. He's looking for funding. And so they all arrived. Now, this is the time of carts and horses and so forth. And so he did arrive. The people arrived, and the next thing, he did his experiment. He said, look, I'll go to another room and I'll ring the bell in here in this room from another room. And as you can't do that. And he says, of course I can. And he says, somebody come with me. How many times do you want the bell to ring? And he kept them all in anticipation of what he could do. And they were dumbfounded. But one of the people there asked immediately for their carriage and horse. And the Goodbody, Mr. Goodbody, says, what have I offended you? And he says, no, I'll have nothing to do with this sorcery. He's seen it as work of the devil and of evil, that that you could communicate over the airwaves. So you're quite correct. A lot of people at the time probably thought what he was doing was mad. And at the time, there was cables running from America to Ireland, from Ireland to England. This was an unbelievable concept that you could send something wirelessly. And what about the curvature of the earth? And how would this be done? And it was very, very simple what he did. It was so simple. And before long, in 1895, he did it in his own house for 30 feet. And then he went outside and he got it to the other side of the hill beside his house. And they had a shotgun, and they would fire the shotgun to let them know that the signal had got to the other side of the hill. And over time, it went further and further. So his mother, realizing that he was getting no satisfaction in Italy, took him to England. And the Post and Telegraphs there were very, very interested in what he was doing.
Well, let me ask you before you talk about that.
Yeah.
at that time, what did they believe that this could be used for? Did they believe it could replace those wires that you talk of? Was it for, military reasons? Did they imagine that you could have a news bulletin that someone could read the paper out on air or something? In the early days, what did they believe this concept could be used for, I wonder?
Yeah, well, it's maybe like any invention. You start off and you have a TV and it's black and white, and then somebody says, well, maybe you could do this in colour, and then you could do flat screen, and then you could do a remote control. You wouldn't have to change buttons, and it escalated very, very fast. So what happened in that little room that he had his experiment in would eventually move into radio, would into TV, would into safety at the sea. It was just unbelievable, and he died before TV really got started. But one invention led to another, to another, to another. The idea that you could communicate wirelessly opened up a massive... And today, we take for granted 5G. We take for granted our phones. We take for granted so much. But the ingenuity and the mind that had to, behind what you have in your hand or what you watch...
Visionary. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So you were talking about then he moved from Italy. He was frustrated there, was he? And went to England, did you say?
Yeah, and it's again how important mothers are in our lives. She believed in him from day one, and she says, I'm taking you to England. We're going to try to get some money for you to develop this. And the Post and Telegraphs in England were very general. Post Office were really, really interested. William Pierce was his name. But they eventually took his experiment and stole some of his ideas and tried to do it independently of him. And because of that, then he patented his wireless box. He patented that in 1896. In fact, he took out 800 different patents for his inventions, what he was doing, and eventually formed the Marconi Wireless Telegraph Company. And that's why he came to Ireland to look for funding, when he'd seen what the Post and Telegraphs in England had done, trying to take his invention and not have him involved with it. And they couldn't work it to the extent that he was using it. And in 1898, the Dunleary Regatta would be known as Kingstown there at that time. Again, we were still under English rule. He was invited onto a boat. They'd hired a boat, a Dublin newspaper, the Dublin Daily Express, and he was out in the boat able to send back signals to the port about where different boats were in the race. And it was the first time ever live reports could be sent back, and the newspaper was able to publish the results before the boats came back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so remarkable.
So that was Ireland again.
It would have seemed like time travel at the time, in that know what's happening before the boats even return.
Yeah. And at that time then, what he did was he realised he could get a certain distance, so he went then to Rathlin. You see, Rathlin Island and Ballycastle are pretty close in Antrim, so he could send a signal across there and manage it. And later on, that contraption that he used and station that he used in Ballycastle and Rathlin was moved to Malin, and we'll maybe talk about that in a while.
Can we then also say, is he credited with this? He then clearly is the first wireless sports reporter.
Well, technically, yeah.
Yeah, technically.
On that. And he then went when the Irish one had been so successful, they went and did that then in America. Some big yacht race in America followed. But he realised more than that. He realised what this potentially could do. And it was about, first of all, trying to extend his signal further and further. And he eventually got across the English Channel to France in 1899. And he realised the value of that there, and he kept on trying to move it out further and further. And eventually, then he got it to the 2,000 miles. He was able to send a Morse code, the signal S, the letter S, across 2,000 miles from Cornwall to Newfoundland. So once he realised he could send one signal in Morse code, eventually that would follow with voice signal, that the voice could be carried. So he got the distance, and then he started elaborating it further and further, how he could harness that technology to transmit a voice, which is fascinating to consider that for thousands and thousands of years, human beings couldn't communicate at that distance. It must have been mind-boggling.
Well, all the while, the world is shrinking. The further he could transmit that, the smaller the world would become. Now, this is great, right? It's almost doing tricks at this point, but of course he's displaying his wares. Yeah. Then in terms of people sort of going, right, well, you've broadcast what's happening at boats at sea. Were people started to talk at that point, how can we use this for safety reasons, for example? Like, I don't know how big the transmitter at that point might have been.
It wasn't terribly big. It was a little small black box. And what he'd realised, to try to get the signal with the wireless, he had little bits of metal, little particles of metal, and when the wireless signal would come, it would send an electric field through the little magnetic dust particles, and then they would make the connection between the two metal pieces, if you understand, the stable metal pieces. It was very simple what he did, and it was a little small black box. But yes, it was realised very quickly that this could be used for life-saving purposes on sea. That happened in one case. The East Goodwin lightship it's in the English Channel, beside along by France and England there, and they had a lightship there to keep people off the rocks, and the lightship happened to have a Marconi box, and they signalled that there was a boat in distress that had gone through the fog and into a dangerous, precarious position, and they rescued the people, and just because of Marconi's box. And then later on in 1909, there was an Italian ship that went on the rocks. Again, it had the Marconi system. It was about 1,700 people were saved. So they realised very quickly this was very important. And again, it was the Marconi box that was used for the Titanic in April 1912, the signal that was sent out. And fortunately, Phillips, the signalman, the Marconi signalman, he actually drowned he stayed with the Marconi machine, sending out the signal. And it was those signals that saved the people that did survive.
And I presume at the time, maybe I'm wrong to presume, that when they were promoting the safety of something, they'd go, we've got lifeboats, we've got perfectly trained staff, we've got a Marconi box. I wonder, did that form part of the safety message to try and entice people on really quite a long journey across the sea? I wonder, was it adapted like that?
Oh, absolutely. And people did realise it wasn't even that. He was able to send news to the boats, the big boats, and they would print newspapers and then give it to the wealthy people on board so they could get the updated world news. It worked in reverse as well. He wasn't short of figuring out how he could use this to make financial gain. And so some boats had actually printed newspapers or reports and were able to give it so that people had an update of what was happening. And a boat at that time might be 6 weeks at sea, going from, say, Ireland to America or going to Australia. So this allowed for communication to continue even at sea.
And things progressed very quickly then in terms of the initial, how long are we talking between sending that signal in his house to the wonderment of his family to some of the, obviously we know the Titanic was, almost 2 decades later. But how soon after that did we start seeing it being employed? Well, you mentioned the regatta there, actually. What year was that? So it was really
1895. So that was very
So it moved really quite quickly, didn't it?
Yeah. And then by 1920, that had moved into Radio Land and Highland Radio, Marconi again. And
some of the staff still work here. And come here.
None of them would have beards by any chance.
But it's like I remember, and I think I mentioned it through one of these items before. I was a really early adapter with the mobile phone, and I remember sitting with no one to text, no one to call. I was the only person I knew that had this phone. I regretted it because I paid through the teeth for it. But at what time for the masses, did receivers become generally available, I wonder?
Yeah, again, it was a big thing in the 20s and the 30s for young boys and possibly girls, but boys seem to have shown a bigger interest in it, to make their own little radios. And they would buy the little magnet and the little wires and the little receiver and try to make so they could listen to radio. So in the 1920s, it really took off. And in fact, it was BBC that took his Marconi idea, the research centre there, and he used to broadcast concerts just free to air. And then BBC adopted, look, we'll work on this. And eventually then actually Marconi's company applied to the Irish newly formed Free State government in the 1920s to get a license to start up an Irish radio, 2RN. And I think that was about 1926. That was established, the first Irish radio station. And that was Marconi. It was only for a few hours every day. I think it was 2 hours every day. And it didn't work very well outside Dublin. So what they did then is they started up a Cork radio. That was 6CK, 6 Cork CK. And then later on, the Athlone radio was set up in 1933. and that was to boost the signal as well, or to rebroadcast some of the programs. So, and he also was involved in setting up Vatican Radio that still goes in 1931.
So, but obviously with this invention, and will you be able to hold off for a minute after the news, a couple of minutes?
Yeah.
But just in 30 seconds. Well, maybe we should wait till after the news, but it's like every invention, and presumably the military elites then are looking, going, right, how can we utilise this? But we'll get to that. I'll tell you what we might do. We will take the news and we'll get back to that in a moment. Okay, it is the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. We are approaching 11 o'clock. Stay with us. Dr. Joe Kelly is going to be talking more about Marconi, and we're going to get to those Donegal connections, of course. But it is 11 o'clock now. Let's take a news update and say good morning, Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. A UK Supreme Court challenge to the Northern Ireland Protocol post-Brexit trading agreements has been unanimously dismissed. Judges have rejected the legal challenge and found the arrangements with the North are within the law. The court had been considering whether the rules designed to keep the border free-flowing were in breach of different legislation. Sinn Féin is to bring a motion before the Dáil today proposing a mortgage interest relief for homeowners. Donegal Deputy Pierce Doherty, the party's finance spokesperson, is calling on the Minister of Finance to accept the temporary relief to support borrowers struggling with rising interest rates. He says with another interest rate hike expected in the coming weeks, government intervention is vital as people continue to grapple with the cost of living crisis. The need for a minor injuries clinic in the Northwest is one of the issues set to be discussed at an upcoming public meeting. The closest facility is currently located in Monaghan. The Letterkenny Hospital Campaign Group believes the Donegal-based clinic would alleviate the pressure on the hospital's emergency department and GP services in the county. The group is hosting a meeting on Thursday, February 16th at 7:30 p.m. at the Dillons Hotel in Letterkenny. A man remains in serious condition in hospital following a crash in Ballybofey yesterday morning. He was injured in a two-vehicle collision at around 11:30 a.m. in the Navanny area. The Navanny-Dreenan Road remains closed. Garda Forensic Collision investigators are to conduct an examination of the scene this morning. Diversions are in place and motorists are advised to avoid the area and seek an alternative route. The chair of the Malin Development Association says the local community feels attacked after significant damage was caused to the green area in the town. In the early hours of Monday morning, 6 tractors and a forklift were stolen from a yard in the area and taken on a joyride. And finally, a seminar to promote the need for women in politics in the Northwest is being held later this month. Just 4 out of 37 councillors in Donegal are female. A number of guest speakers at the See Her Elected and 50/50 Northwest Seminar on February 24th in Donegal Town include former Taoiseach Mary Coughlin, Senator Eileen Flynn and councillors Mary Therese Gallagher and Niamh Kennedy. Dr. Michelle Maher, Programme Manager for See Her Elected, told today's 9 to Noon show that unless more women get involved in politics, there will be no significant change. That's all for now. Back again with more news at 12 o'clock.
All right, well done. Thanks very much, Donna Marie. We're still in the company of Dr. Joe Kelly, historian, who I hope you've got 5 minutes, Joe. So obviously the military would have been looking on at this with great interest. Would they have, or did they have their own means of communication, or what?
Obviously they realise the potential of this, the value of this. I mean, to consider, for example, that in Armistice Day, the treaty in 1919, it was signed, and yet people still died a day later. They were still fighting in the trenches at the front because the communication hadn't got to the front, even though the peace had been signed behind it. So, I mean, and we had one case in Donegal, Joe McHugh from Doohery, fighting in World War I. The war was over. The parents were relieved only to find out that he was killed the day after the war was over. Wow. Because the fighting continued. So the military right away realised the value of this. And in fact, Mussolini had enlisted him into World War I. Well, this was before Mussolini. The Italians had enlisted him into World War I to see what they could do with his technology and how they could use it. And then later on, Mussolini, after 1922, enlisted him into his fascist party. And there's questions over Mussolini's involvement with fascism. But it would be more, historians would say, look, it was more a matter of business and finance than ideology. and that he wasn't necessarily, supporting the fascist ideology and what went with it. So there was always a kind of little bit of a controversy or a question there. But certainly, yeah, they did realise the use of his, and obviously over time they would advance that in different ways, as we know today.
Right, okay, so let's go to Malin then,
Yes.
because there was a communication tower there long before Marconi.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
that's right.
So what was there initially, and how because I have this was told this story, like they used to, they would daisy chain messages around the coast, right? We've talked about that before. Obviously, how that was done with lights, wires. What, remind us?
Well, what it was called semaphone. Sema is the Greek word for a sign, and phone is a carrier, a flag carrier. They would use flags to make signals to boats, and see, at the time that had been Lloyd's of London in 1805, and Lloyd's were underwriters for insurance for boats, companies for boats. So at all times, they had developed a system whereby they would know roughly where all the boats in the world's oceans were at any one time by these signal stations. So there was a signal station in Malin about 1805, an old signal station there. Boats would come close to Malin, to Banba's Crown, where it is, and they would be able to then relay that back to Dublin, and then from Dublin to London to Lloyd's, what ship it was, what time they'd be expecting to arrive at, how many passengers, all those details were able to pass on. And what Marconi realised then was there was a value in being able to know digitally, using his wireless connection to boats, not necessarily having to be see physically the boat, that they could actually signal the boats without actually seeing them, and could guess what time they would be there at and how far they were advanced. We talked about the Titanic and safety. So he realised fairly quickly that Ireland was geographically a gateway to the Atlantic and America and Canada, and a lot of ocean liners and travelling. So he set up various signal stations. Once he made the connection with Nova Scotia and Newfoundland, he then decided, right, okay, I need to use Ireland, and he built a number of stations, transatlantic links. There was one in Cork in 1901, one in Rosslare, Wexford 1901, and then Malin Head was 1902. He had one in Kerry then, in Valencia, and then he had a massive one in Clifton in about 1907, 250 people working in it. But the Malin one, as I said to you, was 1902, and he took the contraption and utensil that he had used in Rathlin and Ballycastle to Malin, and they took over what was the old Lloyd's signal station and built a new station there, and he put up a 120-foot aerial there, and the first commercial message was sent to a ship, the SS Lake Ontario, in January 1902, and that continued up to about 1909, and then the post office took over the Marconi station, whatever kind of financial agreement or understanding was there. So that really was Marconi had no longer any part to play with that, but he had a connection with Donegal in that sense, and he realised the importance of Banba's Crown, or at the top of
And where did Banba's Crown? That's quite. It's a lovely name. It kind of rolls off the tongue a little bit. What's the origins of it?
Well, the people of Malin can claim this, and it's a wonderful thing to claim. Banba was one of the three sisters, Era, Banba and Fodla. There were three old names for Ireland. There were three sisters of, supposedly in mythology, the Tuatha De Danann, and they were very beautiful girls. So when the Malaysians, the Celts, arrived, the three girls said, look, name Ireland after me, and they decided to name it after Era. But poetically, people would use Fodla or Banba. So Banba is another old Irish name for Ireland. So Banba's Crown, the crown of Ireland, and sure, isn't that Donegal? And I'm sure the people of Malin have a right claim to that. And from a tourism point of view,
for sure.
It says a lot that we are the crown of Ireland, and oftentimes we maybe not feel that, but we need to keep believing it, and maybe the people of Malin will remind us more often.
All right, and very finally, I mean, obviously the father of radio, when did he die, and was his death marked particularly, I suppose, on his invention?
Very, very interestingly, like, he died in 1937. He was 63 when he died, and it's the only time seemingly in radio history that the actual signals went silent when his mass or his ceremony, his burial ceremony, was being broadcast. For 2 minutes, all the signals of Radioland went quiet out of respect for Marconi, and I don't think that has ever been repeated since. So look, we have a lot to be grateful for. Greg, they wouldn't be listening to you and your show every morning only for what Marconi had invented.
So it's his fault.
It's his fault. We have somebody to blame now. But on his day, Marconi Day is celebrating the 25th of April, the Saturday nearest to the 25th of April. And so, look, we can be proud in one sense that there's a Donegal connection and there's an Irish connection. And more importantly, the importance of a mother in a child's education and her persistence and her belief in her child, you know, helped to create someone who you could say is a man who networked the whole world. So there's Marconi, there's Donegal, and there's a bit of Jameson.
And there's Dr. Joe Kelly, historian. Joe, thanks so much for your time this morning. I really appreciate it. So that's it. Marconi and his Irish and Donegal connections. Hope you enjoyed that.
At Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, we are now operating out of one new state-of-the-art showroom in Donegal Town. And we invite you to visit our new 5,000 square foot Donegal Town showroom to discover the latest eye-catching designs. Remember, at Cherrymore, you're dealing directly with the manufacturer, which means high-quality kitchens at factory prices. Start planning your dream kitchen or bedroom by calling Cherrymore on 074 9725 822. Cherrymore, 25 years delivering value, quality and service all over Ireland.
Callahan's Gala and Go Burt, your one-stop family shop. Drive into our newly renovated spacious forecourt. Fill up at our upgraded modern fuel pumps and save with our keen Go fuel prices. Located on the main Letterkenny to Derry Road, we're the ideal pit stop on your Donegal journey. Fast flow fuel, self-service or attended with a smile.
Sure, it's all go at Callahan's.
Is the appearance of your staff important to your business? It's the first point of contact for customers when entering your premises. At C&M Embroidery in Letterkenny, they have a huge range of clothing covering all areas of the workplace. It's widely known that customers warm to and trust employees that present themselves well. Have your company name embroidered or printed on all your work uniforms. Contact C&M Embroidery on 07491 28097 and get your staff looking their best.
Breedon's Furniture, Cooley-Maville. With over 40 years of experience in furniture and floor coverings, they've got Irish-made furniture, suites, beds, mattresses, dining, flooring, slide robes and occasional furniture. Great prices and large selection now available at Breedon's Home Furnitures, Cooley-Maville.
Zeus in Letterkenny are looking for production operatives to work on night and evening shifts. These are full-time, permanent jobs with shift allowance and very competitive pay and benefits. To apply, go to work@zeus.com. That's work@zeus.com.
Fabric World's biggest ever winter sale is now on. There's over 5,000 metres of curtain and upholstery now half price or less. All craft and dress fabrics reduced and lining from £1. Why not insulate your home with half price fleece interlining or avail of our fabulous Euro rates at Fabric World Maydown, Derry.
At the county's number one talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. The Lotto jackpot is an estimated €3.5 million. Play responsibly in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
COVID-19 and flu viruses are circulating in the community. Keeping up to date with your recommended vaccines will make sure you have the best possible protection from serious illness. And everyone aged 18 to 49 can now get a second COVID-19 booster vaccine from a HSC vaccination centre or a participating GP or pharmacy. See what vaccines are recommended for you on hsc.ie or call our team in HSC Live on 1800 700 700 from the HSC.
From the smallest shrub to the largest tree in an awkward place, Donnelly Tree Services provide a complete range of tree surgery services. Whether you need to remove a dangerous tree or some nuisance branches, Donnelly Tree Services have the experience and expertise to carry out tree surgery to the highest of professional standards. Call 083 005 9939. Donnelly Tree Services, Donegal. No job is too small, no tree is too tall.
If you smell gas at home or on the street, don't ignore it. Open windows and doors. Don't smoke, vape, or use a naked flame. Don't unplug or switch anything electrical on or off. Turn off the gas at the meter. Then, no matter who your gas supplier is, call Gas Networks Ireland on 1800 20 50 50. Visit gasnetworks.ie to screenshot the safety steps, save them to your device and share with friends and family.
At AIB, we know business owners make hundreds of decisions every day, some small, some monumental, all of them important. We're here to make one big decision a whole lot easier. Change your business current account to AIB in just a few simple steps so you can get back to business. Search Why AIB for more information. AIB, let's get to work. Terms and conditions apply. Allied Irish Banks PLC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Okay, you're welcome back to the programme. Now, as you know, there is a documentary airing on TG Ceathair tonight. There are some that don't want it to run. I understand some who even took part in it that thought it was going to be broadcast at a later date. And some family members of those who were bereaved during this awful tragedy have asked for this programme not to be broadcast because they think the timing is not right now. TG Ceathair have defended the programme, as is their right, and as we speak right now, we understand it is still to be broadcast. Hugh Harper joins us on the programme again now. Hugh, thanks for joining us this morning. How are you, Hugh?
Good morning, Greg. That's a very good question. We ask ourselves that every day. We're coping. We're surviving as probably the only way I can put it at the moment. There's a lot going on. This documentary included now, and it's very frustrating with what we're not getting a chance to cope with, to manage what we're going through. There's a lot of distractions, and this is one we could be doing without at the moment.
What is it about it, Hugh? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I mean, obviously, it's before we know the outcomes of the investigation. It's really quite soon. I mean, obviously, what people did in helping is to be celebrated. But I mean, this is still very right now for the likes of you, your family, and others, I presume, Hugh. Are those your concerns?
There's multiple concerns, Greg. We wholeheartedly agree that the people that were there that day, the first responders, the medical crew, anybody who was there that day, this is a programme that we understand is for them to document what they did. As opposed to inform the public exactly what happened, to what they did, not what happened in the explosion, but what they were doing that part on the day. The problem for us that one, it's too early. We're still in the process of grieving. There's so many things that I could say, but at the moment it's just too early. And the second point is, Greg, that nobody has contacted us. And as far as I know, I can't speak for the rest of the families, but I can speak for us as a family. Nobody has contacted us to ask us, is this suitable? Nobody has contacted us to say that this is what's going to be said, this is what's going to be shown. And from what I understand, this is a 9-part documentary. And I question why 9 parts. Is this a documentary about, really and truly, is this a documentary about what the first responders did in Creasla? Or is this about the nine families as such, if you want to put it that way?
I'm not sure if it's... I haven't heard it being a 9-parter. I wonder, is it a 9-parter on different subjects or what, Hugh? But it's certainly something that we need to get to the bottom of, because you see, at the end of the...
Again, Greg,
yes,
this,
Hugh?
Sorry, again, this is just what I've been told and what I've been hearing from people that are telling us, what's happening. I've sent an email to TG4 begging them and asking them to make contact with all the families, to make contact with the superintendent in Letterkenny, whoever is leading the investigation on this, and talk to people, let them know what's happening before this goes to air, so at least people can be ready, and they can either they can have their say to we don't feel that's appropriate, or we agree that's fine. The silence is deafening from the likes of TG4. It's unbelievable. We feel so left out. It's like being on a bus journey and you're in the back of the bus and you have absolutely no say in where you're going. You're just along for the ride.
And what's one of the most regrettable things I think about this, Hugh, is because of the lack of communication is that there are then those that took part in this that thought it was something else according to them, or that it was going to be broadcast at a later date. and they themselves, even though some of them are heroes in this story, might have conflicts themselves, feeling that they're in some way adding to your pain, which is the very last thing that they would want to do. I think with all that considered, I think it would be nice if this was deferred, because, as I say, it's horrible to think that everyone who's on the same page might feel they're being in a little way pitched against each other by accident, clearly by accident. But from what we know now, do you understand where I'm coming from?
I know exactly what you're saying, Greg. We have no issue with we have no issue with the guys that were there that day. We know a couple of the people that were interviewed, and they've given us an idea of what was said. But the issue that we have is what we don't know. We don't know what video footage, for example, they've got. We don't know who the other people are that they've spoken to. We have absolutely no idea to the content. We've got to remember that there's other families here with children that are going to be watching this, other people that were affected by this, including ourselves, including our own two children. It's too early, and we need to be informed of what the content is.
And it's starting to be even clearer for me now, Hugh, because you don't know if images of you or your partner at the scene are going to be shown. We don't know if footage that would have been shot that didn't make news bulletins at that time because maybe, in inverted commas, it was too soon. Are we going to see that? Are the pictures of those pictures of the moments after the explosion are going to be shown? I understand now. That's really important that people directly affected by this and still absolutely locked in their grief would really need to know in advance.
Listen, we didn't get our little Luna back until the very end. It was 24 hours, but hours previous to that and minutes after the explosion, there was no guarding on the scene. There was no medical personnel, just the first responders. And I'm sure, and I'm not saying that they have, but I'm sure people have taken photographs. I'm sure people have taken a video. But it's what that video contains. I'm not ready to see it. And I'm sure that the families, members that have lost people, that found out very, very early on that day in Chrysler, I'm sure that they're not ready to see it.
And I think what people...
And I'm sure...
Hugh, if you can work with me to sort of try and make people understand this, right? Because we've spoken in the past. In your everyday life, right, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, in your everyday life, you might see something. It could be a wall that a car has hit and it's collapsed. That you, as a victim of this and having lost your beautiful daughter, even something like that can trigger very serious emotions. Just so the general public understand when you talk about things that you might see and how it might affect you and others. Have I given an okay example there, Hugh, if you don't mind, so people understand that the images can come...
You have given a very good example, and I'll give another example, Greg, and it's something that I haven't looked at too much. God rest those people in Turkey. That earthquake, them images, albeit that it's far more extent and a far bigger situation in Turkey. When I see that, when I see an ambulance with blue flashing lights, when my wife hears the buzzer on the car for the seatbelt not being on, there's just so much that we have to deal with at the minute, and we're trying to get through it as best we can, but there's so many distractions that we're not able to grieve properly. And this is just something that we would ask Tina G or TG4 to... I've written an email to them last night because I only really found out exactly what this documentary was about. I honestly thought it was about the concert and the Royal Leisure Centre. And I've asked them to make contact with every individual family member, and I've asked them to make contact with the investigating team to see if they can, highlight some information and correspond with everybody to let everybody know what's going on, because it is very early, but I'm more concerned about what's going to be aired. And possibly, I'm only thinking out loud, what damage this could do to any investigation that's going on with Chrysler. Any outcome of any investigation. I am concerned about that, Greg, and I'm not going to hide behind any lies and say I'm not.
Hugh, can I ask you, seeing as you mentioned it, and I don't want to put you on the spot because it might not be easy to explain, because some people did message and do you know, obviously the concert happened recently and there was that fantastic fundraiser last weekend.
Yeah, fantastic.
Is that different because it wasn't talking about the event itself, it was an opportunity for people to come together or to fundraise? Is obviously those two events, for example, are very different to a TV programme being made about this awful tragedy and its aftermath. Is that how you see it, Hugh?
Greg, sorry, could you repeat that question? Because I'm thinking my phone is breaking up there. Sorry.
No. What I'm trying to say is, like, the concert and the great fundraiser last weekend are different to this, aren't they? Because they're fundraisers, they're an opportunity for people to come together, whereas this is sort of... Is it easy to explain why it's different?
They're two completely different situations, Greg. I suppose, all in all, the concert and the trucking run is something that we were involved in. We knew what was going to happen. We were told it was going to happen. You know, we were invited to it. We had input to it to a certain extent. When you go to the concert, you're not, or the trucking run, you're not going to be looking. Nobody's going to be sharing photographs on a screen, putting videos up on a stage. You know, it's just completely different. As a chance for us, as families, to meet whoever came, and as a chance for us as families to meet the first responders, to thank them personally, to have a night with them, and to I suppose in a way to celebrate the ones we've lost.
Yeah, I get
you.
No, that makes sense.
They were there with us just as much as anybody else.
Well, you know, Hugh, as I said earlier on in the programme, it's all of our loss and all of our tragedy, but it's yours. You're the person bereaved, and it's your voice, I think, that really needs to be listened to in this type of situation. As I say, I don't know who's behind the programme. I don't think anyone's making any comments about individuals or anything. It's just that this show, a lot of people, seemingly some who were involved and someone who are affected by this tragedy, feel that certainly before the outcome in the investigation, or at least now, just is not the right time. And at the very least, the likes of yourself should have been informed as to what exactly is in it, in case you find yourself having to watch it, but find yourself further traumatised by it.
Well, I can assure you I won't be watching it, Greg. I will not be sitting down with a cup of tea and a biscuit to watch that show. I'm quite upset that myself and Donna and our two boys haven't been considered in the production of this, you know, and the making of it. We have talked to two of the people that have contributed. They're not the issue. That's not a problem for us. We support them fully. But it's the unknown for us. It's the unknown of what we walk into a shop after the documentary's been aired. We have no idea because we're not going to watch it. But we bump into a friend or a person that we know and they say, God, you know, that was a terrible thing to put on TV, or, you know, I didn't know that happened, or there's nobody ready for that yet, Greg.
Okay. Right, Hugh. Thanks for joining us to get your thoughts and views out on that. And
Greg,
thank
you very much. And thank you to Highland. They've been very supportive through the whole thing. Thank you very much.
Well, you know, we'll stand with you, Hugh, whenever. Okay, take care of yourself. Hugh Harper there. It's a toughie because, as I say, I'm not rounding on TG Cahir. I certainly am not. All the people behind it who are, you know, very highly respected and reputable. And I hope if they get wind of the type of conversation we're having, they understand that it's not that. It's just that people who are affected by it, at least some, we can't speak for all, and I'm not speaking for anyone, by the way, because we heard from Hugh there, are very uncomfortable because they weren't consulted. They don't know what's in it. They don't want it to go out now. And it is their loss and their tragedy.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Toyota Relax, our new service-activated warranty, is now available at Kelly's Toyota Letterkenny in Mount Charlotte. Whether you bought your Toyota from us, a classified ad, or your auntie, Once it's less than 10 years old, with under 185,000 kilometres, you will get a 12-month warranty when you get your service at Kelly's Toyota, Letterkenny or Mount Charles. For more, search Toyota. Relax. Toyota. Built for a better world. Terms and conditions apply.
Connect Hearing is open for free hearing tests. Our audiologist is available Monday to Friday for wax removal services at our Letterkenny clinic in the Courtyard Shopping Centre. We also offer a home visit for those who aren't able to visit us. Our hearing is our social sense. Are you finding hearing more of a challenge? Call Ursula today on 07491 13296 to make an appointment. Good hearing helps us to connect to our family, friends and loved ones. Connect Hearing, connecting you to life.
With 231 well underway, are you calling in for a look? Sure, call in for a cup of tea or a coffee and let our sales executives show you the options available in our new Kia range. With an unbeatable range of vehicles, there's only one garage to visit for your next purchase, and that's iMotors. Visit us in Letterkenny or Malin, or visit imotors.ie.
In this week's RTE Guide, Mary Kennedy on embracing change, finding love again and downsizing. The Crown's Claire Foy on her compelling new film and its powerful theme of hope. Plus, Home of the Year's Sarah Cosgrove shares spring trends and tips in our Home and Interior special. Everything and more. RTE Guide, on sale now.
Are you building, moving or renovating in 2023? Think Irwin's Expert Electrical for all your home appliances, big and small. With our layaway service, you can secure your products now with a deposit until you're ready to collect or have them delivered. Irwin Expert Electrical, Letterkenny and Buncrana.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. The Lotto jackpot is an estimated €3.5 million. Play responsibly in store, in app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
Right, following on from our conversation from Hugh, another family have been in touch to say that they feel very traumatised by the airing of this programme. No consultation was given to us, they say. We are barely holding ourselves together with so many questions and no answers. The documentary will throw us right back to that day. That's another family. Pádraig O'Donnell, who took part in tonight's documentary, he says in a communication with us, I support the family's call on this. I did take part in it and I thought families had an involvement in it. I only told my story on the events of what happened to me on the day. The families have a right to even view it before it airs. I can only assume it's done with the thoughts of the families in mind. And I want to think on Pádraig as well too, by the way, because he and a couple of others probably are finding themselves in the middle of this, even though we heard from Hugh's there's no issues with anyone taking part in it. I think it's just a communications issue, and on a disaster of this scale, not just locally but nationally, I think that the lack of communication has really led us to where we are today. And unfortunately, it's not pitching people against each other. That's not what's happening. But I'd just be thinking on people like Pádraig and others who might feel they're stuck in the middle of it a little bit, even though they're not, and it's certainly not their intention. And Pádraig's an amazing person, and we all know that. Right, Nathalie joins us on the programme now. How are you getting on, Nathalie? How are you keeping?
Not too bad. I'm a bit emotional, but well, considering. Yeah.
You're from Scotland. You're married to Sahan from Mardin in Turkey, and we're speaking in the context of this awful tragedy that's hit that part of the world.
Yeah, I'm finding it really emotional. We can't watch the news too much because just seeing children being brought out of the rubble, some of them alive, some of them dead, some of them with their dead parents lying beside them, it's awful. Yeah,
and there's a cycle in the media, and I'll be honest, it kind of makes me sick a little bit. I'm sorry to criticise the media, where they do the initial reporting and then in subsequent days it's the one-off stories of people's survival, which is great. But it sort of paints a picture in the general population's mind, which is not really real. You know, we still have thousands upon thousands of people missing. And I think these stories are designed, obviously, to sell papers, but almost to make people feel better. But we're not in that space. This is a terrible unfolding tragedy. And I think sometimes, I presume for yourself and your partner, it's even difficult when you're far removed from it because you're watching on. You're helpless, you're waiting for information. It must be particularly tough, is it?
and there's nothing you can do. And the mainstream media are only showing you cities and towns where they can access. They're not showing you the villages, and like the people in Syria aren't even getting that much help at the minute. I mean, there's people in villages that are hearing voices from underneath the rubble, and they can't access them because there's no one there to help. The government are going into these places. So we're raising money to try and get money directly to these. Like there's the Kurdish Red Crescent that we want to donate to, and they'll try and help the people that are in these areas.
Yeah, because there's lots of connections between this part of the world, every part of the world really, and Turkey, particularly, and to a lesser extent Syria. And then you've got Syrian families that are seeking asylum and are refugees because their country is war torn, and like these people you couldn't get any more bottom than what these people are going through right now. I mean, their homes were bombed, and now they're suffering earthquakes and stuff. And because of the civil war, the rescue operation obviously is hindered. How are you raising funds? How can people support you, Natalie? Well, what we're doing is we're collecting money in the barber shop. Shahan's donating all of his tips. We're money's the easiest thing to collect because it gets there quicker. We can do direct bank transfers. To post stuff over is a bit more difficult. It takes time. Do you know what I mean? It can take days, sometimes weeks to get there, and there's a lot of stuff being sent over. But if we could get money to these charities, it would help. The White Helmet charity is for the people in Syria. I think they need to get something because they're the only people in there doing anything at the minute. Studio 47 is the barbershop in Letterkenny, isn't it? Where is it located for people who don't know but might want to drop off a donation? We're at Killylaston, Killyclug. We're just at the Killinor complex there. And this is a drive up until February 17th, isn't that correct? Initially, at least. Or it's 3 months. Turkey have declared a 3-month disaster, so it can go on for as long as it's necessary. But we're aiming to send or what we can on Friday. Okay, so people can call in there, and if they want to track updates, Donegal Intercultural Platform are posting updates on this as well, aren't they? Yes, yeah. Okay, right. Yeah, and we'll update our page as well, and we'll let you know where the money's going. And all right, listen, Natalie, thank you, and pass on our good wishes to Sahan, of course, who's watching from afar. And I don't think we have to imagine. We can understand how difficult it is for him. Thank you. Thanks very much for your time. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Catherine McDevitt is with us on the programme now. Catherine, I won't delay you long. Listeners will know that you very sadly lost your sister Martina in the explosion. And are you on to sort of support Hugh in his comments?
I am, Greg, and thank you very much for airing this. We're all very hurt. We very much echo what Hugh Harper has said. We share his same concerns. We also shared the family waiting room with him in the hospital. Out of all the victims, I suppose that we've had time with you and his wife Donna. We were there first at the scene with Donna as well, while we waited as ambulances came out, waiting on our loved ones to come out that never did. We're so hurt, we're angry, we're annoyed. We knew nothing of this documentary till we received a text message last night at 6:30. And it's sent us into, we're just spiraling again. We're being brought right back to that night. My mother's 82 years of age. You know, she never thought that her daughter would go before her. Never mind now that she might have to see actually what happened. And again, you know, when this happened, Martina's funeral was streamed live on air. We were on the front cover of every newspaper as we grieved for our sister. We have tried so hard to privately grieve for our sister, but we've been given no opportunity. We've been given no time. We're all in counselling. We're trying to navigate this new life. We're trying to come to terms with what happened. And just this week, we're transported right back to so far back in our recovery. You can almost feel yourself standing again at the scene, numb with coldness. We stood there throughout the night. We are the family that the digger man is talking about. We stood all night as the cadaver dogs went to look for the bodies, as we seen rubble by rubble, piece by piece, getting taken away. We were not consulted. We knew nothing of this. We don't know how Martina died yet. We don't know why this accident happened. There's so many rumours. There's so many unanswered questions. We're not ready to see it. We did see it. We still see it every day. We see it every night in our dreams. We see it when we wake up in the morning. And for this to come out and be broadcast to the nation, and for us to have to go out again and face the public, and God, that was awful. You know, we're only just getting over sympathisers who, yes, they mean so well. I mean, for months we were doing our shopping out of town to avoid people. It's all been so public.
Yeah, I know. And I've spoken to people who were having something to eat or getting their hair cut or something, and someone paying for it, and whilst it's well intended, again it kind of brings people back a little bit in the process. This only happened in October. It's just now. It's too soon for an entertainment programme on it, even if it's well intended.
Yeah.
Have you contacted TG Cahir, Catherine? Did you
We
get
did. We sent them an email last night. We haven't had a response. So I contacted them myself by phone this morning, and the lady I spoke to said there was nobody available to talk to me at this time. And I said, I'm Martina's sister.
Okay, Catherine, listen, I won't hold you any further because I don't want to add to anything, but I wanted you to have an opportunity to let maybe those who need to hear it to hear it, because it's your loss. We can't. It's you decide, not us, not the media, not TG Cahir, no one. It's yous. Catherine, best wishes to you. And I hope
you, Greg.
The process for you as best can continues. We're thinking on you all the time, you know that.
Okay, and thank you so much for airing it for the families this morning.
Okay.
It's nice to know that we have such great support.
No, we're back behind you 100%, Catherine. As is the wider community, Catherine. I hope, everyone texting agreed, bar one message who says maybe people can tune on or not. We've had dozens and dozens of messages of people who back you, as if that's important. I just want you to know that.
Yeah, and it is so. Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. Right, okay. I live in Creasla. I don't want it aired. We're still very raw. God help the grieving family, says a listener. Another. I think the people of Donegal need to boycott this programme and don't even watch this. And also the sponsors of TG Cahir need to tell them not to show this programme. Pull the sponsorship. I just think if the right people hear it, they'll make the right decision. It doesn't have to go out, does it? Another, I think it's very insensitive to air a programme about the tragedy so soon after the event. What does it achieve? Hi, Greg. TG Cahir cannot air the Creasla show tonight. It's too soon, as Hugh said. It's only been 4 months since the tragedy. The family should have been and now need to be consulted. Do the right thing, TG4. Hey, Greg. Can you share a phone number we can call to try and stop this programme getting aired tonight? If lots of people bombard the station, surely they'll reconsider showing this documentary. I think really all it would take is one email from Catherine or one email or telephone call from Hugh. I understand where you're coming from. I'm not sure what it would achieve us bombarding them. I don't have a number for them, by the way, but listen, come here. These are the people that are going through it now. It's their voice that needs to be amplified and heard, and I hope they do hear it and do the right thing.
PDO Thread Lifts, the ultimate non-surgical lift for the skin, improving facial contours, lifting and tightening jowls, the neck, cheeks and eyebrows, are available at Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic Udor. For help choosing the right aesthetic treatment for you, contact Mary Ferry, your aesthetic practitioner. Also offering fat-dissolving treatments, dermal fillers and laser treatments for all skin conditions. Hair and makeup packages also available. Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic Udor, 07495 325 75.
Order. There's a lot to be said for it. Not the restrictive, always play by the book, straight down the line kind of order, but the order you place for a brand new 231 Audi. An order best placed having experienced true progress with a test drive at your Audi dealer, where you will also get advice on the options available to ensure owning your 231 Audi is as straightforward as possible, which is proper order. Visit your nearest Audi dealer, where future is an attitude.
House to Home Bridgend, Donegal. Our modest front door opens onto 2 floors of Irish-made furniture, suites, beds, mattresses, dining and occasional furniture. Step into our showroom and see how we can transform your house into a home. House to Home furniture, flooring, slide robes and interiors, Bridgend, Donegal.
Green Shoes at Market Square, Letterkenny are proud to announce that they're now stocking Riker footwear. Riker blend fashionable styles with incredible comfort, striking the perfect balance between fashion and practicality. All Riker shoes are made using unique anti-stress and anti-shock technology to provide the essential support and comfort the brand is known for. Try any of the new season Riker shoes now at Green Shoes, Market Square, Letterkenny.
Century Complex is now serving pizza in our new and improved Bites Corner bar. We have a wide range of delicious pizza options available. Call us on 074 9121976 to book your table. And don't forget, Century Cinemas is located just across the car park. Check out centurycinemas.ie for movie times and tickets.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. From March 26th, Aer Lingus will operate a daily service to London Heathrow, providing onward connections to 80 plus destinations worldwide. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Rightio, so a few bright spells breaking through now. Breezy with southwesterly winds increasing fresh to strong and gusty. Highest temperatures of 8 or 9 degrees. A band of rain will move into the region later this afternoon, by the way. It's going to track across the county southwards, turning colder with winds veering northwesterly and moderate as the rain clears. Right, what am I about to do here now? I'm going to play this. Right, Kieran, stay there now. Hail you horses.
Business Matters in association with ATU Donegal's Faculty of Business. If you're an owner or manager in a food production business, consider the new 1-year Level 8 Higher Diploma in Food Business and Product Innovation. It's just one 3-hour lecture weekly. Call 9186600 or email gary.mcgill@atu.ie.
Rightio, Wednesday means the latest Business Matters podcast from Highland Radio is out and live for you right now on our website. Its presenter is Kieran O'Donnell, and he is right in studio with us because we get to have a look forward through as to what's coming up in the podcast, but also get a bit of business news from you. How are you, Kieran?
Good, Greg. How are you?
Great, and it's great to have you back in with us. Right, okay. I love when newspapers confirm what we already know.
Yes. The Guardian newspaper has named Rathmullen as being one of Ireland's top 10 most charming villages, and the very complimentary write-up, it said the village is the gateway to the beautiful east coast of the Fana Peninsula, one of the most northerly points in Ireland, and home to some of its finest beaches along Ballymastocker Bay and the rigid mountains, offering spellbinding views across valleys, lakes and coast. So that's a very good thumbs up from a very reputable paper across the water.
And these things all make a difference.
Yep.
So it's always good to get some good PR.
Spun.
Good for Rathmullen to be put on the map. Okay. Right, we're expecting to see more job opportunities in the county?
Yes, the number of job opportunities in Donegal will grow by 5% in the coming year, and that is according to a new forecast from FRS Recruitment. That is one of the country's leading recruitment agencies. So this follows on from the 4% decrease experienced in Donegal in 2022. And just looking at the national picture, Greg, the largest decreases came in Kerry, 10%, Leitrim down 9%, and Louth down 7%. So we seem to be bucking the trend there, thankfully.
Yeah, hopefully so, that we get through the worst of this now and people can start seeing the woods for the trees, a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Great news from Funthrough. They have a base in Letterkenny too.
Financial services company Funthrough is to create 300 new jobs in Derry, and the new roles will see Funthrough's northwest operation double in size. The Financial Times had named Funthrough, established 10 years ago, as one of Europe's fastest growing companies for 2 years in succession. And last July, of course, the company announced the establishment of a European delivery centre at Letterkenny and the creation of 300 jobs over the next 5 years.
Yeah, so hopefully now they keep the pedal to the metal and they all come to fruition.
Yeah. But they've certainly expanded their operation in the northwest considerably over the last while, and it's obviously there are companies going to be here for the future.
All right, what's this Northwest in the City event all about?
Yeah, I missed it a few weeks ago, Greg. It's just as part of Donegal County Council's focus on attracting talent back to Donegal and the Northwest. So its economic development unit is partnering with national agencies, local authorities and stakeholders for the Northwest in the City event, and that is taking place in the Westbury Hotel in Dublin tomorrow, Thursday. More than 20 global multinationals and leading Irish companies are expected to attend the event, and those will include Optum, TCS and Funthrough, who are all based in the Northwest.
All right, good stuff. Right, we've had Fiver Fridays in the past. This is a free Friday. What's going on?
Just a wee note. For the month of February, Greg, there's an option for people to work at Grievance Centre's co-work Plus Hub for free on Fridays. So to book a desk at the Termit facility, visit connecthubs.ie. And we had Mary Doherty on the programme last year out in the Creven Centre. So it's a good facility. And obviously, if people are in the area, they mightn't actually be from there, but base themselves here in the Northwest, that's an option for to go and get a desk and work for free for a Friday.
Where is the time going? Because it is free for February, but it seems like we're almost halfway through February. Is it an age thing? I know it's not a business matters thing, but seeing as you know...
Well, I can't comment, Greg, because I'm much younger than you, but I'll take your word for it.
It's all ahead of you, young man. It's all ahead of you, but time just does seem to be marching on, doesn't it? Like, it's lovely to see these stretches in the evenings, you know, you're seeing light after 5 and all that.
Yeah, even bright early this morning too, which is good, you know.
Who told you that?
Somebody phoned me and told me.
You saw a picture on Facebook, did you? Right, okay. Let's get down to business. This week's podcast, Kieran.
Yeah, my guest this week, Greg, is the Head of Regions, Property and Enterprise Development with the IDA, Dennis Curran. Established in 1949, the IDA is the state agency responsible for promoting Ireland for foreign direct investment. IDA currently employs 330 people throughout its 22 overseas offices and 10 regional offices. A native of Letterkenny, Dennis has been with the IDA for 24 years. So, Greg, in this clip, Dennis explains that the Northwest region has been experiencing a high level of investment in recent years.
When we're positioning Ireland and the geography of Ireland to potential investors, we position it on a regional basis. We don't necessarily position it on a county basis. So we market Donegal as part of the Northwest region, and the Northwest region encompasses Donegal, Sligo, and Leitrim, and you know we've had a very good run of investment in Donegal and in the Northwest over the last 2 years. So today, Kieran, we have 21 companies, FDI companies, IDA client companies, located in Donegal, and combined they employ directly just over 3,600 people. And I was just looking at some of the numbers, compared to maybe 8-9 years ago. The number of people employed now in Donegal in foreign direct investment has increased by 52% over the last 8 or 9 years.
It's interesting headline figures. We look forward to listening to you dig into that a bit more with Dennis. What's the range of the conversation there, Kieran?
Yeah, I suppose, look, the one thing I took from the conversation, Greg, was the specific role that the IDA has. I suppose its main function is to sort of one for Ireland, first of all, and then it's to one for the region. And I suppose things that potential investors or global companies take into consideration when they decide to move to a certain country or a certain location would be common jurisdiction, EU membership, political stability and political predictability, and talent for the future. So there are a lot of things that are considered, and it takes a lot of time, I suppose, for negotiations from the time that they open until they conclude. But when the IDA are successful for securing the location and the setting up of a new business, the knock-on effect economically and socially for a region or for the area, for the town, are hugely positive.
Yeah, and they have to make sure now too, don't they? And I think we're getting better at it, that we don't have businesses that come in, see what benefits there are, and then exits.
Yeah, the one thing Dennis would have noted, he said, look, when a company does come here, it's not for a 12-month period, it's for 10 years or multiple 10-year periods.
Okay. The full interview with Dennis Curran, a big hitter, has to be said, is available to download now at highlandradio.com or wherever you get your podcast. Now you stream it on the website if you wish as well. And Business Matters goes out on air, Kieran?
Yeah, after the 6 o'clock news, Greg, on Sunday evening.
And anyone looking to get in touch with you to give some feedback or suggestions for the show?
Yeah, just drop me an email, please. businessmatters@highlandradio.com.
All right, Kieran, listen, looking forward to seeing you next Wednesday already. Thank you so much.
Cheers, Greg. Good morning.
As always. All right, Kieran O'Donnell there. Brendan O'Donnell is Senior Engineer with Capital Delivery Unit, Community Development and Planning Directorate. So we're talking about the Riverine project, which will not be completed within the time frame which was laid down. And it's unlikely to be resolved before the Peace 4 programme ends. Brendan, this seems on the face of it just a disappointment. Is that your assessment of it?
No, absolutely, Greg. A huge disappointment for ourselves and the project team, but as well for the wider community that would have benefited from. So it is hugely disappointing. We've been beset, I suppose, with challenges on the project for some time, but not unusual for large projects. But just look, it's got to the stage where we're up against a hard deadline with the Peace 4 funding, the EU funding, end of 23, and that just cannot be moved. So that's really where the difficulty lies.
So what happened here, Brendan, in layman's terms?
Yeah, in layman's terms, I suppose the statutory approvals, Greg, were quite, how would you say, onerous or difficult. And that's given that we're crossing the River Foyle, it's an EU protected habitat, if you like, and also a floodplain there. We have OPW links there, and because it's a cross-border project, there's statutory approvals on both sides of the border to complete, and they're quite onerous, as I say, just because we're dealing with a European site, and I suppose that we also, as well know, the issues with Bord Pleanála and I suppose with staffing issues there and governance, the board itself, with their difficulties in staffing and getting people appointed to that.
And pardon my naivety, and we don't want to circumvent anything or do anything that we shouldn't be doing. Is there any possibility that the powers that be could intervene in some way to make this happen in the time frame that would be required now?
Yeah, I think at this stage, Greg, we're beyond the time frame. But listen, we have been liaising with Bord Pleanála at official level, if you like, and in fairness to the staff there and the board, they've been doing their best as well. The difficulty arises is in the decision making of the board. They're an independent body, as you know, so they can't really have that interference from outside telling them what to be doing. So it's around, I guess, Bord Pleanála having the resources or the setup in place that they can make the decisions.
Yeah,
and I don't think we're even there yet.
And the project promised a park of regional significance located along the banks of the River Foyle on both sides, comprising of a number of elements, including outdoor event space, managed parkland, enhanced river access, environmental area, an adventure play area, community building, and all the infrastructure that you'd expect from it. A actual game changer project, because not an awful lot of them are, but this would have been a game changer project. So what does this mean then to its long-term future? We're not going to get these issues resolved before the Peace 4 programme ends. Is there, again, pardon my ignorance, is there a Peace 5 programme? Is there other funding streams that can be tapped into? What does this mean to the long-term, medium to long-term future of this project, Brendan?
Yeah, I suppose, look, Greg, we intend to finish off the statutory procedures to get that. So we will stay with it till we get the Bord Pleanála decision. We have a number of we have a foreshore license as well needed for the bridge connecting the two sides of the river, the parks. We have a marine license in Northern Ireland that we need to get as well, and planning permission from Derry City Strabane. Those, I think, the Northern Ireland applications, statutory approvals, they're in hand. We're confident enough they'll be delivered. So we'll get the statutory approvals in place. That'll bring the project to a shovel-ready status, if you like. It'll become a very different thing, much more certain than for deliverability. So the Peace Plus is the next iteration, if you like, or the next incarnation of the funding programme under the Peace. So Peace Plus is an option for funding. There are probably other options as well. We might look towards something, perhaps like a shared island fund. But what we intend to do, the commitment remains between both councils, and indeed SEUPB have reiterated their commitment as well to the project. Now, obviously, they don't have final say on these things, but I think that there's a lot of goodwill, there's a lot of commitment remaining there to the project. So we'll look to move the project on through whatever funding mechanism we can identify.
But as you say, once you get that to shovel-ready status, we can maybe start to see those options. Listen, thanks for your time, Brendan, this morning. I appreciate it. Disappointing for you and the team and the community, of course, but hopefully this will come to pass. All right, that's Brendan O'Donnell there. And that's where we have to leave it on the show today. Thank you so much to all of you who listened to the show, got involved in the conversation. It's challenging at times, isn't it, with some of the stuff we have to talk about, but it's important that we do. We appreciate your involvement. Anything you got in touch with us, we'll continue to try and chase up and deliver for you, as we try to do here on the programme. But for now, for me, Greg Hughes, Caroline Orr, the researcher and the producer, we're back with you tomorrow morning at 9. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. But